Okay, Jay,
It's what? It's on.
it's
Hey, everybody.
on.
Whoever's there.
13 out of 501 Macs are online currently.
Now they'll all trickle in.
Yeah, we're a couple minutes early. Just started the broadcast and.
And what was
let people-
the final number of the? I wanted us to get up to 69, but I only saw.
74.
Ah,
Oh, there you
damn!
go.
I missed getting the screenshot at 69.
Oh.
Everybody else just self-muted. That's funny. So why did it take 3 hours last night? You or the questions?
A little of both. There's a ton of stuff you'll kind of see in some of the intro slides. There's a ton of features to go over if you want to try to hit all of them. I sped through a few things last night. I did some things live, and I'll do the same tonight, open Revit and actually do a bunch of it live, and then I'll jump back into the PowerPoint, kind of go through a bunch of it. There were some good questions along the way that maybe took up a little bit more time, but I mean, it's probably at least a solid 2 hours if I go quickly, skip some stuff, and don't take any questions.
That's awesome. That's fine. I'll just tell people up front, look, it's probably, going to take anywhere from, whatever, 1 to 4 hours, probably in the 2 to 3 range.
Yeah.
And, we're not going to stop after an hour and a half and say, okay, that was it. But anybody that wants it, we're just going to run through.
Yeah. And the other good thing, and for the people that are already online and can hear, so in years past, you guys have known how this thing gets organized, where it kind of ends up being more architectural features, and then kind of structural, and then MEP, and that kind of, goes off at the end. The way this PowerPoint is structured this year is it's kind of all a mixed bag as you go through it. So like, we're not really kind of favoring the architecture side, although there's a lot of kind of more generalized tools and maybe some architectural tools. There is a lot of stuff for structure and MEP, but maybe feels a little bit heavier architecture this year. So
cool. Hey, so there's a question. I don't know if you saw Blaine's question about why no COVID beard.
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
I did have a COVID beard. It's been really hard being at home and find myself just forgetting basically. And like, week and a half, 2 weeks later, I'm like, man, I need to shave. And my hair was getting long. So last weekend, being Easter weekend, we actually drove down to my mom and dad's in San Diego. And prior to that, I did a COVID cut with the clippers, took the clippers to my own hair, and then decided to shave and just shaved it all off. So now you've got, it doesn't grow fast. You've got a couple days from Sunday till today, a couple days worth of no shaving. So that's why no COVID beard at this point, because I did have one.
Can you guys, Blaine, can you guys unmute and speak or no?
I could unmute everyone if you want.
Well, at
Yeah.
least right now.
Hello.
Hey, Tesla. Yep.
Yeah, we were all muted.
Yep.
Hey, Scott. This is Naman. Hey, Blaine. Shobit.
Hey, Newman, how's it going?
Awesome.
Oh, there we go. All right, so I was muted. I was just typing back. So we unmuted the audience, and then I got muted somehow. So hi everybody. Welcome in. We're just getting the webinar started, letting everybody roll in, and we'll get going here in a little bit, and Jay will kick us off.
That's what you think.
If Jay doesn't take up all the time talking himself.
So I'm just going to say, okay, hello everybody, welcome to LARUG. What's new 2020? Take it away, Scott.
That's it? No.
Yeah, you mean that's all it took?
I mean, I don't know if anyone saw like all the videos that Autodesk released like last night at like 1 in the morning, but there's a good 2 hours of videos I think out there.
You're
on
about
just-
to bring.
There's a lot, and then I'll share the YouTube channel, and I have some of those videos embedded in what I'm going to present today because I couldn't possibly have learned all of this stuff, especially when it comes to some of like the MEP and structural stuff. But yeah, there's 35, I think, plus videos in a YouTube playlist. That's not all. It's a good chunk of what's new. It doesn't cover all the features. We'll kind of talk about the number of features here in a little bit as well. But yeah, there's a lot to go over for sure.
It was an impressive upload.
What was that, Blaine?
It was an impressive upload. I was very impressed by the amount of videos that I saw just show up.
Well, we're all stuck on 18 anyway, so.
Did Homeboy
Yeah.
step across the line?
Which
What
homeboy are you
was that,
talking
Jay?
about?
On Twitter?
Are you talking to me or Blaine?
You, Scott. Just Scott.
Oh, I don't know who would have. I'm not sure which tweet you're referring to at this point.
Oh, the one I replied to.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They talked about what's new 3-4 days before the embargo, before.
Yeah. I mean, the one tweet that came out that I think if it's the one you're referring to, was the one that Harlan and Sasha put out, who are the PMs for Revit, that said there's going to be a quote unquote sneak peek of 2022 on the 6th.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's completely, I mean, I got yelled at for putting the word GNU, which is an animal, because it sounds like the word new. And I got, people such as you and others getting in touch with me going, dude, take that down.
I get it, but when you're the product manager and you own the product, I guess you get to make the determination of when you want to be able to tweet about it or not. That they're not technically under NDA; they own the product. So
okay, that's it would have been awesome if they would have just come clean like that on the out in public.
Yeah,
The deal, man. Come on.
Yeah, I get it.
That's why they just ran away and were like, hey, thanks for your enthusiasm. See you next week.
Yeah. I don't know who answered that, because that was probably somebody at one of the Autodesk Twitter handles. There's a group that actually handles our Twitter handles.
Some generic group of people probably probably saw it.
Yep. Marketing group.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know about you. We're at 31 people and 7 minutes past the hour. If you want to get started so we don't end up talking until 10 o'clock tonight, we could do that. Or unless you want to wait a few more minutes.
Well, let's give it 3 more minutes. What do you think?
Sounds good. Here, we'll crack the evening right.
There you go.
Cheers,
so if
cheers to everybody.
Has anything to say, or if they've seen anything perhaps, and they want to preload a question to Scott, do it now. Unmute yourself, and 3 more minutes, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Let me look at the attendee list here. Can I see the attendee list? Oh, I don't think I can, because I'm just a presenter, so I don't get to see the attendees. It's on your side, Shobit's side, I believe, because it's your go-to meeting.
Yeah, I got it also. Shobit, stop muting.
Sorry.
All right, and I muted myself.
You should see it now, Scott.
I do. I do. Thank you.
Yeah,
There you go.
been with us long enough. You're honorary time.
Awesome. Good deal. I see some familiar names on the list. So thanks everybody for jumping in here. Like we said, we're going to give us just a couple more minutes to go 10 past the hour and just let everybody get in, and then we'll get going. Oh, and it is happy. Somebody, Myron, it's National Beer Day. Happy National Beer Day. So it's appropriate. Where's my webcam there? So, but I'm drinking a Mexican beer. Guess it doesn't matter. And I'm set up on dual, just so everybody knows, I'm set up on dual monitors. So if I look over here like this, I'm looking at like the question and answer and my presenter slides and things like that. But
Yeah.
when I work in Revit, I'll try to look this way. Unless you don't want webcam, I can turn off the webcam as well if you guys want to just focus. Not a big deal. I just think it's like we're in lockdown. Nobody's seen each other, so we kind of Autodesk side, we've gotten really used to throwing webcams on just to get that visual presence going.
Yeah, that's cool. Webcam's fine. So Shobit, you want to start recording, or is it already?
I believe it's already recording.
Oh yeah, it looks, because it says stop recording there. So cool. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for showing up. And it's been a strange year, right? I don't think we have to go very far into that. Hopefully coming out of it, maybe next year we'll get to have What's New live and in person again. So really without it, since there is a lot, and Scott wants to really dive in deep for everybody and make sure we answer questions. So one thing I would say is if you ask a question, a couple of us have the questions up on screen, so we'll see them. And if there's a question worth interrupting or that we feel is appropriate to interrupt with, we'll do that. And if not, later on, we'll provide some place where people can unmute and ask some questions or have some feedback. So without further ado, thanks again, Titan, for providing the webinar space. And thank you everybody over at Autodesk, and obviously, most importantly, to Scott for doing this for our group. So without further ado, take it away, Scott.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate that. It's my favorite time of year, really. It has been when I was not Autodesk, when I was back at WLC Architects. This product release time is always exciting when our yearly releases come out. And I actually really enjoy doing the kind of local Southern California user group tour at release. So appreciate you guys having me back again, too. There's a ton to talk about. I'm sure some of you have been out there in the social media channels and things like that, have seen a lot of what's going on possibly already. Revit 2022 got released yesterday on the 6th. And in fact, the embargo lifted at 9 a.m. Pacific time yesterday morning. And that's when things really started to kind of roll out. So I'm sure there's been a lot of activity. A lot of you may have already gone out, downloaded 2022. I might just shorten that to 22 through the rest of the presentation night, because saying 2022 gets tough after a while. But like I said, it's a fantastic release. If you don't know me, my name's Scott Davis. I'm one of our senior AEC technical specialists at Autodesk. I just had my 14-year anniversary. You guys that I've known, Jay, Shobit, Blaine, others can believe that already. I'm sure you guys are
that long, man. Yikes.
Remember when I first started. So it's been quite a while. And then prior to that, I was at WLC Architects in Rancho Cucamonga in Southern California, and was there for 8 years, and started my own user group there at one point that was called the Ruggy, and then became the Buggy later on. And then, I participated in all these. So anyway, it's just a fun time of year. That's my Twitter handle on the screen, at Scott D. Davis. So if you want to mock me through Twitter or provide some feedback or whatever, or get in touch with me, that's the great way to do it, through Twitter. And I usually see those DMs pop up, and I'm on Twitter every single day, so to check that out. Where I want to start is actually switch over into here, and let's go look at maybe one of the blog posts that kind of got kicked off yesterday in the morning when this stuff started, and we'll give maybe a baseline for this particular release, because I've said it a couple of times. I feel it's a really big release. We're going to go over the kind of amount of new features, improvements, et cetera, here in a little bit, but there's a lot. And I think David Smunker, who's part of our team, he said this best. He's like, this release 2022 is about you guys. It's not that it hasn't been in the past, and not that we haven't listened to customers, because we always have, but there was some extra things that happened this past year. Many of you guys heard about some of those things that might have come up in the media about some additional pressure on the team to really kind of perform above and beyond this year. And I'll tell you that even before any of that started, that was really already, the development of Revit to ramp it up was actually already in the works. And there was requisitions for new developer jobs already going into our careers website to, if people wanted to come work for the group at Autodesk that's developing Revit. And some of those jobs were overseas, but we had a bunch of jobs already lined up. And then this open letter that I just kind of been referencing came out from a group of architects. And then that number even got larger for more developers and things. But we were really going to ramp that up. So I just want to get that out there. But tons and tons and tons of user input this year. Jay, Shobit, some of the others, I know you guys are on the beta forums. I think I've been watching mostly there. There's been a ton of activity in the beta forums this year. But this is like testament to like your feedback is driving this stuff, this future development. And with the idea, and if you don't know this blog post, I guess I could cut and paste this into the chat window real quick in case you guys want to see it. Chat. I'm not used to GoToMeeting. I'm sorry here, guys. Where did my chat window go? I'll find that in a little bit and we'll throw that in there, but I'll get you guys that link to this particular blog site. But something else I want to point out to you is this site, which is actually a Trello board. For those that aren't familiar with Trello, it's this kind of cloud-based repository methodology for organizing your data. And so we've now made this Trello board public. And so at this link is the Revit public roadmap, and it's organized into these columns that you see on the screen. Obviously this column just kind of really got updated yesterday. These are all the things that just came out, in 22. And then there's new columns, or columns that are here that are always perpetually in motion. You come here one day and then the next day, and there might be something added to one of these, but these are kind of the tools for everyone, the tools for architecture, systems, structural, et cetera, and then like a little header video, each one of these. So if you don't know who the product manager is for the kind of architecture side of Revit, it's this guy, that's Harlan Brum. So you can watch a little video about him, know more about him. If you don't know Ian Malloy, or Sasha Crotty, who's really like in charge of the platform of kind of everything that's going on inside of Revit. Or if you don't know Pavel, then for the structural side, you can kind of get to know them a little bit. And then some color coding is going on in this Trello board. There's some things that came straight out of Revit ideas. So those are all tagged in green. So on the future stuff here that's going on, these things are tagged in green. The ones that just came out in the latest release of 22, there's a lot of green things in here, meaning, we do listen to that Revit ideas page, believe it or not. And in fact, we actually have a new role that just started last December called the Revit Community Manager. And that person is Kimberly Furman, that many of you guys might know. I'm not sure if she's gonna be able to join us here tonight or not, but Kimberly Furman, Kimberly is in that role, and she was the president of Augie for the past couple of years. She's taught everywhere. She's taught at AU. She's been at the Revit Technologies conferences. She's done a bunch of that stuff. So a lot of you guys know her already. But one of her responsibilities is to try to help keep up with this Revit roadmap and be that liaison between you guys, the customers, and what's happening back at the factory, what's happening at the Revit development side of things. So I just want to make you aware of that. Oh, and her other role to hit on that is to really go over Revit ideas, because that website, that kind of methodology was getting really, I don't want to say polluted, but I guess that's the best word I chose. She's gone through and really cleaned it up. We kind of like took everything out of the being considered thing, and we're like reorganizing it. So if you haven't been to Revit Ideas in a while, go check that out. put your votes in place for those things, get them to float up to the top, and that definitely helps in that. And then obviously anything is tagged with this orange tag down here are things that are new to these systems. So there's some things you might already see interesting here about what might be coming up in the future. So I wanted to point that out to you. And then before I actually jump into Revit 22 live, I'm going to do some of the stuff live tonight, and then I'm going to do some of it in PowerPoint and some videos. I also wanted to point out this YouTube channel. So this YouTube channel is actually the channel the name of the channel is the Autodesk Building Solutions channel. And inside of it, there are, how many here? 37 videos that are all about just this release of all of the new stuff. So I'm giving a little bit of away here, showing it quickly in this view, but we're gonna move on as quickly. So if there's things that you didn't get enough out of tonight, or you want to know more about, go to YouTube, look for the Autodesk Building Solutions channel, and then check out the What's New in Revit 2022 playlist. That's all live and ready to go today. And of course, you can find a bunch of stuff. Like I said, go to Twitter, throw Revit 2022 in the search bar, and there's a lot going on here already as well. All right. Without further ado, let's jump into this. So a couple slides to get us going. As always, these things are broken down into some kind of key areas of the way that the What's New is organized. This year, it's broken up into a group of things that we think are good for design productivity, then interoperability, then documentation efficiency, and at the end, some developer tools all around Revit API. There's some great new stuff there as well. This isn't organized this year. Some of you were online early, might have heard me say, in years past, it's kind of been grouped where it was kind of like more architectural heavy, and maybe towards the end of the conversation, it got into more structures and MEP. That stuff's kind of sprinkled throughout tonight. You know, if you are an architect, great. If you're on the MEP or the structural side, you don't have to wait till the end to hear what's new for those things. They're kind of sprinkled through the rest of us. So let's take a look. You guys have seen this in the past. We always throw up a list of all the stuff. And like I did last year, I didn't want to give it all away on the very first slide. So I blurred out everything because we'll come back to this list and we'll revisit it later. So, you know, looking at this, there's 47 things on this list, which is already pretty substantial. But guess what? This is only under the heading of design productivity. If I go to page 2 on this and look at interoperability, documentation efficiency, and then developer tools, we're up to 90 things. To give you an idea, I did a similar virtual user group last night, and I tried to go fairly quickly. We did have a lot of Q&A, and I'm expecting we'll have a lot of Q&A tonight as well, but I talked for 3 hours. And so I don't know if we're gonna go that long tonight for you guys. I understand that not everybody has that much time. I appreciate it if you can stick around, but if you can only join us for an hour, hour and a half, that's great. And then of course this is being recorded. Maybe you can come back and touch on some of those other little tidbits later on, but be warned, this isn't gonna, like, we're not gonna get to the end of an hour and chop it off and say good night. I'm gonna try to keep going until we get through everything and get to the end of the slide deck.
Yeah, let me just interject there real quick.
Sure.
Hopefully Shobit's listening also. I think the recording automatically stops at 2 hours. I believe we have, yeah, about an hour and a half left. So what I'll do is, as I look at that timer for the video, I'll give a little warning. Then maybe we can stop at that point, take some questions, and then if we can restart a new recording, we'll do it then. If not, we'll just continue without recording the second part. And then at that point, I'll be able to know, and I can maybe just capture it off of my screen capture.
Perfect.
It's all doing through the cloud anyway.
Yeah.
It's all recording through the cloud. It's not.
Does it have a time limit on it, Show?
Not that I know of.
Okay, because it just says duration 150 minutes on the dashboard.
On what?
Okay.
I don't see it on my end.
All right, just hit me on Teams.
Okay.
All right. So one other slide to cover before we jump into this. So in the slide deck, there's a little feature key that'll be up in the top right-hand corner of the slides, which basically is kind of showing you whatever features being shown, what discipline do we feel it like would most benefit, right? So they're color coded. So if you look at a slide and the A is lit up and the M is lit up and the S is lit up, the C and the D, in this case, the civil and developer, are grayed out. So this would apply to architecture, mechanical, and structure, so to speak, for that particular slide. So watch for that in the slide deck. I don't point it out along the way, but it is there just so you guys know what's going on. So with that, let's jump into design productivity. This is the longest part of the kind of talk tonight. You saw there's 47 kind of things. And instead of just jumping into slides, what I'm going to do is actually get into like Revit itself. And I'll do a good chunk of this is as much as I can remember of the list of things that I know are in the slide deck. I'll try to go through in this like little sample file that I have. And then we'll come back into the PowerPoint. And as I'm going through the PowerPoint deck, I'll be like, oh, I already showed you that. And we'll kind of skip through it. And maybe that will save us a little bit of time as well. All right, so with no further ado, let's jump into this. So last year in Revit 2021, we did some work on walls, and we promised that we were going to do some more work on walls and being able to have better geometry control over those. So last year, you guys got slanted walls, right? So that was the ability to take a wall like this, and if I jump over into a 3D view, oh, we're going to get to that one here. Let me go back over here. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I'm going to go to this, and I'll do a 3D section box around this little guy. So if I have a wall like this, I could actually go in here and set this to slanted mode and give it an angle as I did in this view. Let's make it maybe 5 degrees or something like that and see if we get a little more slant out of it. Maybe increase the size of my section box here so we can see this better. And so that's, you know, it's a slanted wall. So it allows us to lean things over and slant them. What you couldn't do last year is what I've demonstrated here. And I meant to not have the sketch already applied to it, but I forgot to erase the sketch. Is you can actually now edit the elevation profile of a slanted wall. So, you know, by default, this thing, if I was resetting it, actually looked like this. And then I went in and edited it and chopped the top off of it. I could have put a spline curve on here or an arc or whatever, and then finish the sketch. And so now it is both slanted and elevation edited profile, okay? The other thing that we now have is the ability to do something new with walls. So I'm gonna go into this guy. We'll draw a little section box around another kind of wall sample here. Go look at this. Let me expand this out a little bit. And so the same way that you went to make these things slanted in the past, if you pick on a particular wall type, you need to come down here to cross section, and by default, it should say vertical. And if you pull that down, you're gonna see slanted, but then you're gonna see the new option, which is also now a tapered wall. So tapered walls basically have a variable, the potential to have a variable angle on both sides rather than just the whole thing being slanted over at once. So now that I've set that to tapered, you're gonna notice that I've actually got some controls down here, some grips. So I can just grip edit this thing, which I'm not gonna do at the moment. I could type in an actual angle dimension. But before I do that, I want to point out a couple other things about this. First and foremost, in order to actually set a taper, either on one face or the other or both, I have to have at least one layer of the construction or identify a construction layer of the wall assembly as being variable. So in this particular case, this generic out-of-the-box exterior EIFS on metal stud, I've set the thermal air layer to being the one that's variable. So what it's going to do there is going to take the EIFS and let it be kind of normal, but on the slant. And then the membrane and the plywood and the structure and the other stuff, and this I could slant out the other way. And what's going to be variable from top to bottom is this airspace in between them. That'd be more like the way that you would actually construct this thing, right? So the other thing that you can do with this is that a tapered wall can either be part of the type properties. So I can actually change it here. So if I want to go and make this 2 and 2, there's another parameter that says width measured at, and you can say that I want the overall wall width to either be measured at the top, or if I pull this down, be measured at the base of the wall or the bottom of the wall, right? Depending on if you have a base or a base offset. So I have a couple different things going on there. And so when I apply that, then in this case, now it's kicked out the bottom of this particular wall. So now I've got a truly tapered wall, and they don't have to be the same. You know, this can be 5 degrees and the other one can be 2. If we want to kind of flip-flop things, let me set these back to 0 first. You'll find that if you get too aggressive, if you've basically made the wall pinch too much and you've gotten rid of the top or the bottom, Revit will bark at you and basically say you've exceeded the angle, you have no more wall left. So I found it's kind of better to set these things back to 0. Now if I'm going to say we're going to go to the bottom, and now I can do something like apply a negative value to this, so I can make it taper up rather than down, right? So now we can change this, and now I've got the wall taper going at the top. As I mentioned earlier, I can also, oops, I got to get out of the dialog box, cancel my reminder. I can also grip edit this, so I can just grab this little grip and just take it there. So what it's telling me now is That's great, but since you just grip edited it, are you really sure that you want to do that for kind of like all the walls that might be of this type? Or instead, you want to create an instance override? And this instance override is really the same thing as going into the properties dialog box and then checking this box. Let me make this I don't have to get out of the dialog box. It says override type parameter. So this little checkbox basically says make this an instance instead. And most likely when you guys do this, I would expect like a wall or a couple walls to be tapered, right? So I anticipate this being much more of an instance-based thing than a type-based thing, but you do have the choice to go either way. So now you see that it's overridden and it's 6 degrees and 2 degrees in this particular wall style.
Scott,
Now,
how
if
does it mess with the variable when you unlock the layers of a wall and drag the lengths of them long or short?
Yeah,
Have there been any upgrades, or how does this impact any of that?
that's a great question. You know what? I don't even know. It's been so long since I've done that where I've actually gone in and unlocked a wall layer of view, floor plan, section. Was it here? Wasn't there a control? It's been so long. Can't you select it here and unlock layers? No.
Yeah, you have to select the layer and then you hover tab over on the boundary. Touch in the preview.
Yeah, in the preview window here. So I'm tabbing, it's not letting me grab it. Maybe because it's already tapered, maybe it's not letting me unlock the layer because this is a tapered wall.
There you go.
So I'm
Okay.
gonna guess that in this case, maybe you can't do unlock layers in tapered walls. And that's the first time I've had that question, so I don't know.
Click modify, Scott.
Say it again?
Click modify. Try it again and click modify.
Okay, so go here. Grab this,
Bottom right.
Bottom right.
Not-
Oh, there it is, modify. Okay. There it is. Okay, so let's grab the EFIS and unlock that, and now we should be able to give that an extension, right? And it's usually a grip here. Modify. Yeah, so I'm not getting the grip arrows at all.
Click modify again.
Modify one more time. Nothing. Click. Oh, there was a lock symbol that popped up briefly.
Looks like
That's
it
a
made
lock. Yeah.
lock.
You have to edit the lock in the actual section cut or something like that, not in the style.
No,
Here?
this is where you unlock it. I'll dive deeper in that and check it out, see if it works, but it probably doesn't. Like you're seeing, it just clicks you away from the lock because it'll.
Sorry to chime in. That is where you do it. There's a little bug with that unlock. You have to hover over it until the lock turns yellow or green, and then you can unlock it.
Oh my God,
But it's a weird thing. You have to wait. Click your heels 3 times and wait 30 seconds.
That's actually, I remember reading that. That is the most effed up thing, but we don't want to spend more time on it. That's okay. We can check it out on this.
Open in the background, go play with that real quick, and then come back to us in a little bit and tell us what success or failure you might have had.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
So in this case, here's that air layer. So that's the one that's variable, right? So that's what it looks like now in this this tapered wall section. So anyway, the other thing I was thinking about this is that ultimately, do we really need slanted walls anymore? Because if I do this where one is 2 and the other is -2, now technically I've just got a slanted wall and not a tapered wall, right? So, but here's the other thing. The other caveat to this is this right now, because it's tapered, does not have edit profile. Slanted, I can edit profile, but tapered, I cannot yet. So maybe some more work to do there. The other thing you may be noticing is, well, we've had 3D levels, right? But what about 3D grids? So let's actually look at that real quick. So if I come in here and get rid of this section box and kind of look at this overall model that I have, yes, we do. We have 3D grids available now in 3D views. They're controllable. You can turn them on or off. They're live, right? So if I come in here and move this guy around, I'm extending that grid. If I need to make it taller, I can to have it intersect through other levels and things like that. As you hover and zoom and pan around, it's kind of interesting that if the grid bubble's hiding behind an object, they just show you the number, but the bubble itself doesn't show because it kind of just lets you know, hey, there's something there, and then you can come around and see it. So there's some cool things going on there as far as the 3D grids go and being able to visualize them in the space now. All right, so coming back over here, there is some other additional stuff with walls. One is, let's go back and imagine for a moment that we were in Revit 2021 and I needed to tag, some of these walls. So I'm going to come into tag by category, and I'm going to come in here and place this guy. And then, God, I need to also show what wall type this is. So I got to tag this guy and put him there. And then I got to tag this guy. And yeah, I think you can kind of see what's happening. Like, it's a freaking mess, because just to show 4 wall tags inside of a room, maybe I put them outside, maybe I rearrange them. But in any case, it could get really messy, right? What we now have the ability to do is place one tag. Oops, delete that guy. And now in the modify tags menu, add and remove hosts. So you have to have leaders on if you want them to actually point. But now what I can do is just go, I want to add this wall and this wall and this wall, and you'll see that it's adding those leaders for me from one common tag across all of those things. And of course, they're still all connected, so I can kind of come out or inside or to some other spot in the model, and those leaders will try to stay attached to that. Was there a comment?
How does that deal with different wall types?
All right, you're guessing what I'm going to talk about next. So let's go here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag this one, and then I've got a different wall type over here on the outside. So let's grab this guy, add, remove new host, and then pick this guy. Ooh, check that out. It says varies. All right, so it's letting me know that between this wall type and this wall type, if right now my wall tag is by a type parameter, and these are obviously 2 different wall types, and so it doesn't know which one to do, so it's just going to tell me that it varies. You will see this varies tag throughout Revit now. If you're selecting something or tagging something or trying to schedule something that is common but has a different tag to it or different parameter to it, you can leave it as varies, but you can also go into manage, and you can come into additional settings. And at the bottom of additional settings, you can go to the multiple values indicator, and you can say you want your varies text in Revit to say varies, or display your own custom text. So, if you're a BIM manager, maybe you want to highlight that and say error or something. I don't know, anything you want.
I want to see both room types or both wall types. What's going on?
You won't be able to do it in one single tag. So if it's different wall types, it's got to be a separate tag for each one of the wall types.
So the tag is really only good for similar type objects.
Correct.
Which means
the other one I saw in one of the other videos that's out there was kind of cool, was in a situation like this where you had windows. And so obviously what you could do in the past was go in to annotate and then tag all not tagged, or tag these individually. And I could tag window 1, 2, and 3, and then have 3 number 1s above this. Well, now what I can do is add or remove hosts, and I can do this. Oops, didn't do what I was supposed to do. Grab this tag, add or remove host, and then do this window and then this window, and then maybe I grab these little grips and organize them to be somewhat more presentable. So now I've got one tag and leaders pointing to all the different window types. Maybe that'll help you clean up your stuff. But again, these are all the exact same type, and of course it depends on what tag you have, and right now my tag is by type. Cool. What do you guys think?
Meh.
So, all right, Jay, you're hard to impress. So, couple other things here. If you go into doing,
I just do documentation, so I know that tool is of, it has a little bit of helpfulness, but just a little bit. Like, oh, whoopee, if it won't list multiple types, I mean that they couldn't program in, up to 3 or 5. Hey, there's a different one. Let's have that tag built with 5 different parameter possibilities. They couldn't program that. It's okay. It's meh. It's not great. Cool. Okay. There's something.
The next thing I was going to show you, and again, some of these tools, it's been so long and I forgot where it was from last night. There it is, color fill legend. So if I want to go and color fill this guy, we can say, well, how do we want to color fill it? So we can do it by rooms. In this case, we'll say color scheme is by department. When I drop that in, it's grabbing those guys. Wow, why does it still say calculating? What we've done, and this is in a slide, I don't have any colors defined. Out of the box, if you remember 2021 and prior, the colors for color fill legends were pretty bold and bright, and mostly too bold and bright for most people. So out of the box now, we've actually taken the color fill legend and reduced or made that out of the box color palette a lot more subdued. They're a lot more kind of pastel, if you will, kind of colors. And the reaction last night was that, and it's in a slide, and I'll show you in a little bit, that they're much better because they're like I said, a lot more subtle. They're not so big and bold and bright when you're getting into color fill legends. We'll catch up back up with that one here in a little bit. The next thing here is a couple things, and one is that in a key schedule, you can actually now, if I wanted to go into this particular key schedule and go into the edit the fields, you can actually add a shared parameter to a key schedule now, right? So in this particular case, I have a shared parameter that I made that's just called room SP for room shared parameter. I've added to my key schedule. And so now anything that I put in there, I can, you know, in my case, I put whatever in something, just typing in something quickly. What this is going to be really, really good for is being able to set up for in this case, for rooms, and in particular, the example I'm thinking of is for occupancy, being able to set up a key schedule, put your own shared parameter in for your occupancy types, and then also in the key schedule, like the occupant loading, right? So how many occupants per type can I have in that particular space? And then when you do your room schedule, you'll be able to add that in as a key inside of your room schedule, as I did here under rooms SP, and then have that start calculating out those values for you. So everybody that's done occupancy plans or occupancy schedules to this point has probably used the 2-column methodology. I used this way back when I was doing it, where you actually have a column that kind of auto-populates and another column that you fill in with your own value, and then you hide the one so that you can actually show occupancy and tags. Now you'll be able to do this with a key schedule and using shared parameters in those key schedules to drive that for you as well. Jay, you said you were in beta. I know this got a ton of like really great kudos, and people said this is like one of their top features that they see this year is this shared parameters and key schedules.
This is awesome. Absolutely. For exactly what you just said. If we don't use it for anything more but those load factors, it'll be fantastic. So this is great.
Very good. All right. I gave you a sneak peek earlier. There's some other new cool stuff around our RPC objects. We now adhere to what they call the RPC 2.0 standard. What that does is get you a heck of a lot more realism in your RPC objects. And with Revit, there's a whole host of new RPC content that comes out of the box. So you're not stuck with just Alex or just stuck with the beetle any longer. I know there's a couple other people characters and things like that. There's a whole bunch of other new stuff. So if we go into this 3D view, you're actually going to see it right away because I already had it rendered here. But in this case, I've got a new, this is a Chevy Colorado truck. So again, you're not just stuck with the Beetle. What's cool about this is when you pick on one of these RPC things, you'll notice that I didn't re-edit the family and rename it. So I loaded the Beetle, and then I changed its appearance to become the truck. So my family is a little bit misleading here because my family name still says RPC Beetle. But what you'll get with RPC objects are a couple of new things, this render appearance properties and the render appearance dialog box. So if I go to the render appearance, there are a couple of different cars, or in this case, trucks that I can choose from, a Nissan Versa, Honda, a couple Hondas, a couple GMCs, or GMC Chevy. There's even a Rivian. I don't even think you can buy this yet. Rivian Amazon van. I'm not sure if Rivian actually has vans out driving around yet. But if I go to the pull down, you'll notice that there are aircrafts and there's other car. Oh, there's the Beetle. So that one's still there. There's some new trees. There's furniture. There's motorcycles. There's a thing called office clutter that has a picture frame and a notebook computer in it, and a bunch of other new stuff. So there's some really cool things going on here. Let me cancel out of that for a moment. But let's go back into a couple things here. Let's look at that truck. So right now it's, I don't know what color you call that, peach, some orangey kind of color. If I come back into this RPC object now, oh, and here, before I do that, let's check this out. So I'm in perspective, but it's a real three-dimensional object, but it's not taking up the weight in the project of a, heavy mesh three-dimensional object. It's, if I click on it, it's being represented by a couple of planes in my project, but in a realistic mode that I'm in now, it's being represented as this complete 3D object, right? That's got some pretty cool detail to it, like, down the little Chevy badge and the label on the back, if I zoom in really tight. And It's got relief to it. It even has a license plate on on it. I didn't realize that last night. But here's
Is it
something
only in
else.
realistic mode, Scott?
Yeah, it only shows in realistic mode. So if I change this to like hidden line or something like that, then I'm going to get the outline of it, just because that's in this particular one, that's how the out of the box family is defined.
Shaded mode?
Let's try shaded. Yeah, so shaded, I'm getting those crossing planes as well.
How about Enscape? When we push it out to Enscape, do we have to be in realistic?
I asked that question to Harlan. So what he told me is Enscape has not yet they're working towards it, getting all of their stuff out for 2022, and it's up to them to also upgrade to the RPC 2.0 toolkit in order to have these objects come in. And he wasn't sure if that was something they were going to tackle in their next release or not.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, a couple other not consistent colors, a couple other things here. This one's actually really cool. So let's imagine you don't want a peach truck. So I'm going to go in and edit type. And then instead of the actual render appearance, I'm going to go to the properties, and we can change the color right here. So it's going to be a navy blue truck now instead. Click OK, get out of all that, click off of it to let it re-render. And now I've got a navy blue truck instead. So I thought that was pretty cool. If I spin around here a little bit, we talked about there is some furniture. So here's a chair. This one's actually a little bit more of a 3D mesh by itself. So I think if I look at this one, actually a hidden line, yeah. So this one's kind of like a little bit more of a mesh. And then if I look at it in realistic, then it shows up. Click off of it, but like, you know, look at the chrome. Like it has some scratches in it. Like it's been used, like it's been used a little bit. And you can maybe like don't hover over it, but you can see like the folds in the leather's been creased slightly, like somebody's been sitting in the chair. There's a couple other ones here as well. So if I go in and edit type on this guy, go into our library, there's an Aaron chair, a steel case chair, steel case think. So if I want to swap this one out for a different one, we can do that. And then again, I've got some different appearance profiles that we can see. So I can change, in this case, because of the chair, I can change the fabric out for both the seat and the back. The frame, I can say whether it has a headrest or not. Does it have a lumbar support? Excuse me, are the arms adjustable? What's the arm position? How far is the back tilted? You know, what's the seat depth angle? So there's a bunch of different things depending on the object that you have in RPC 2.0 that we can now mess around with and control in these different various objects. All right, so kind of tilted it back a little bit. Let me spin around here. I guess slightly, I didn't tilt it back much, but you get the idea. But if like, look, if I zoom in tight and not select on it, like there's the mesh and the highlighting. So these actually react to lighting as well. So here's probably the better way to show it. If we look at this truck and I come around, sorry, I'm trying to pan and zoom around this thing a little bit. And if I go in and turn on my sun's on, let's see, where are we at? Date and time. It's like almost 1 in the afternoon in Boston. We'll crank this up to, not AM and PM. I want to go up to like 4 or 5 o'clock and apply that. Boom, the lighting changes on the RPC objects as well. There's a couple other settings you can do with them. You can tell them whether or not you want them to cast reflections or not. So if you want to see them reflected in glass or another reflective objects, you can. Bunch of cool settings. The group last night, somebody spoke up and said there is a huge collection you can subscribe to now on RPC that you get like all of it. There is this out of the box with Revit, and there's a ton of other content out there through RPC that you can subscribe to and get a bunch of other new stuff as well. So pretty cool there for doing it, for doing realistic and rendered mode. All right, what else am I missing here? I talked about key schedules. I talked about our slanted and tapered walls. We talked about some tags. We talked about 3D grids. We talked about the variable thing. Well, to remind me, let's jump back into PowerPoint and see what I missed. And if I have to jump back into Revit, I will, to show you some additional features. So we just talked about this, the wall enhancements. So I'm going to go ahead and skip. There is a video for later on that could play with this. We'll go ahead and skip that video for now. Well, you know what? Let it play for a second. It's a great example. This is a landscape example, probably, you know, where you have a solid concrete wall. You only have one layer to make a variable, and you want to kick out the base of that because it needs to be tapered because it's a retaining wall. I don't know. There's some cool stuff. We'll just let this play for just a second here until they kind of get the right angle applied to it and watch how it kicks out. Oh, the other thing, and you might have saw it there briefly, if I do have two tapered walls that come to an angle, an intersection, they do all clean up well with each other, which is really nice as well. Something you guys can play around with. So let's move on from that. I just showed you the RPC stuff. Great way to display complex geometries. Yes, go ahead.
Talk to me about those slanted walls when they're not just slanted or canted, but they can also be twisted, where each 4 of the points can be at different, not just the top are the same as each other, the bottom are the same, but we're,
Yeah, that's when you're going to be good with wall complex geometry creation when we can control all 4 points.
Well, and then more, because I mean, I don't know if you've noticed the architecture around in the past 20 years, but not so much straight anymore.
Some of it, no, not so much. Some is, some not. But I agree. Yeah, like we said last year we started with slanted. This year we did tapered, and I think admittedly, if you talk to Harlan, Sasha, those people that are the PMs, more work to do on not only walls but other geometry types as well.
Have them make the bottom of the wall and the top of the wall adjustable with either keep it plumb or perpendicular. We need those 2 choices for construction detailing.
Oh yeah. Okay. One thing I'm glad I had the slide that I missed on RPCs is this idea that you can go into billboard mode, which basically says if the RPCs are set to that means they always face the camera. So if you're in a view, you're not trying to look at the back of Alex or one of the RPC characters, they will always face towards where your camera position is if they're in billboard mode. So that's good to remember as well. We're going to go ahead and skip this slide because it's basically showing you everything I just did. Let's get into some generative design. So there's some really good examples on generative design this year. There was some out-of-the-box content that came with 2021. There's been some new additional generative design study types that have been included this year. Placing objects by grid placement, randomizing them, stepped grid, et cetera, et cetera. For those that are not familiar with generative design, it is a tool that will help you go through the process of iterating things very quickly in a rules-based approach. It is based on Dynamo, so there are Dynamo scripts that are happening behind the scenes on these things. All of these ones that come out of the box, whether it's these 3 or the ones that we had from last year as well, which dealt with some massing and some other things, can all be modified. You have access to the source code, the Dynamo code for those things, so you can take what's there and modify them into your own. Like, hey, I like grid object placement, but I don't want it to do furniture. I want it to do something different. I mean, I'm making something up, but you can go in and modify the family types and things like that that are available for it. But the cool thing with generative design is the fact that it can do iterative studies and do them extremely quickly. And I give the example of, the whole idea of iterations has obviously been something around for a long time. I started a long time ago. I started manual drafting, believe it or not. And at that point in time, we iterated on trace, right? It was all about, you had a sheet on the table and you laid trace over it and you did something and you flipped another piece of trace on top of it, you did some more, and then you threw all that away and you started over. And then CAD came along, and CAD allowed us to kind of iterate. Really what it allowed us to do was draw things and erase things more quickly. And I joke that, and it's true, that the #1 most used command in AutoCAD still to this day by customer input is still the delete key, right? So more stuff's getting removed in AutoCAD than is being drawn. And so that's what CAD did, allowed us to iterate more quickly, but it's probably still not as quickly as we would like. Revit allowed even probably a greater sense of being able to iterate quickly, just because it was taking care of some of the minutia of creating views and other things for you. But we still need it to be faster. So that's where generative design comes in, that ability to create thousands of iterations for you based on a set of rules and criteria that you've defined. But not only create thousands, because just creating thousands of iterations doesn't do anything for you, because you have to weed through them all. This actually helps you stack rank them. It helps you understand which one of the iterations meets the criteria you defined most effectively. So it'll help you whittle from those thousands down to, let's say, 3 options that make the most sense. And then you as the designer pick the one for that project that makes, is the fit. And then it will actually take the study and place those objects or do that function in Revit for you, and you're done. So that's kind of a little bit about generative design. So there's some new stuff here. Let's go ahead and look at a quick video of how some of this stuff works. So we've got a floor plan. This is going to be one of the furniture layouts. It's going to show us some of the grid placements, some of the randomized placements that you can do with generative design. This one's about doing table layout. Is it better to stagger them like in that view? Is it better to do them at an angle? This is what the interface looks like for generative design. You basically can go through and define all of your settings. What's new this year is some pull down features. If you're selecting a family type, you'll get that drop down from inside of generative design, so you can select that family type. Again, set your criteria, how many kind of different options or option sets you want to run, let it calculate, and then it will go through this idea, and I'll show you this in a moment. This is the randomized object placement one instead. That graph at the bottom that looked like a bunch of blue lines, that's where this kind of idea of stack ranking comes in. And you can further refine that and say, you know, I want to narrow this criteria down, and then I want to narrow this other criteria down. Helps you reduce down that number of options that are out there. Then when you pick the best one, it will literally do what it did here, which is let's go bake that into Revit now. And now I've got that randomized placement of these particular tables in that space. Okay. Pause there for a second. Any questions on that? Okay, route analysis tool. So there's been some enhancements. So this was the path of travel tool before. It's been enhanced because now it's route analysis. What we really did in 2022 was we embedded inside of Revit what is called the People Flow Toolkit. The People Flow Toolkit introduced 4 new tools into this. One was the ability to do multiple paths. The old path of travel was point A to point B. Now you can do multiple paths. Another tool was to be able to place one-way indicators into this. So if I go into a doorway and I say that door is, you know, an entrance only, then the path of travel or this route analysis won't take that into consideration as an exiting situation. People content. So the people content basically allows you to go in and put occupants as built-in buffer zones. Basically, it says that those things are recognized as clearances as it's trying to calculate the path of travel. So if you know you have a space that's occupied and somebody's, you know, at a desk or in a particular area in an office building, maybe in this area sitting at one of these tables, it'll actually take that into consideration around and go around them. And then the other side of it is this idea around spatial grids, which is this, in this case, get pressure. Trying to go from one monitor to the next. There it is. This hexagon idea, which is this idea that I want to lay things out in this kind of overall spatial grid, and it overlays over the view and allows you to kind of help meet some prescribed physical separation characteristics. So, you know, physical separation in our day and age means 6 foot because of COVID. At some other point, it just might mean that you need to keep enough space around these tables in a space to meet a fire code. Or something like that. So that's what that's all about as well. So some new enhanced path of travel. Go for it.
How does that react when you change it? Does it break like the previous versions did, or is it they fix that up?
Jay, I'm not sure because I actually have not had a chance to play with this particular tool yet in the new iteration, and I haven't heard any feedback that says that it, like you said, breaks. I know they did a lot of work on it, so I don't want to assume, but my assumption is it's a lot better than it was in the last iteration.
Cool.
All right, moving on. Come on. This page down is no longer working. Why is that not working? There it goes. All right, so I talked about it. We're going to mix in some other stuff. So here's some design productivity enhancements around infrastructure. And in this case, in particular, bridges, right? So a lot of people don't know that Revit has become a very good and very capable bridge design tool as well. You can start in our tool called InfraWorks, and you can do a basic bridge design layout conceptually in InfraWorks. You can bring that right into Revit, then do more detailed design in Revit. What we've done this year is added some modeling capabilities for the bridge and road categories, right? So we're going to get to that a little bit later, but there are some new categories. There was always a roads category. I don't think we had a bridge category. There are some new categories, and again, we're going to go over that. And then some enhancements to these alignment stations, right, for all the infrastructure or civil people that might be on the call, right? This is the station controls akin to, you know, grids and levels in a traditional vertical building, are these alignment stations, and just the ways that you can go about those and configure those for the infrastructure side of the business. All right, Next slide. Something that's been asked for, I think, for a long time. So now we can actually rename the default shared, I'm sorry, the internal coordinate system. By default, it was basically just internal. So now we can go in and rename that and have that reflected in a template even. So it's going to support all 151 different countries and countryfications that we have in Revit, allow you to have that control over what does that thing say by default rather than just being internal as it has been in the past. Fabrication side. So for any of the MEP people on the call that are using Revit fabrication, some great enhancements here about taking Revit design kind of parts, Revit family parts, and converting them to the fabrication pieces instead. So in Revit 2021, we had some issues because not all of the pieces and connectors for fabrication were defined well enough that when it translated this to know what it was doing, it often left gaps, in this case in ductwork and things like that, and just didn't complete the solution. So in Revit 2022, it basically is really completing that solution out as it's doing the translation for you. There's improvements around overall performance and how quickly it does these things. Probably the best way to take a look at it is actually just to go watch this quick little video. So the first one's going to show us what it looked like in 2021 and earlier when there was fabrication, so it doesn't go back to all the versions. Some different kind of connector pieces here, some different transitions in place. And these are, again, all Revit families. And then there's the design to fabrication button, which is then going to try to translate these to fabrication level detail components. Excuse me, but you can see it didn't get the transition right between the two. In fact, not right at all. It left it out, and the transitions between the ends of these round pieces of ductwork, it left them out. In the new system in 2022, when I go design fabrication, there are some different rules that apply. We can talk about what the service is and talk about the inline parts that it should be using. And then it's going to complete that solution in a much more complete way, putting in the fabrication parts, putting in the right connector pieces, the right flanges, and in this case, you can see even like the right kind of, what do you call them, taps between the ducts where it's actually angled along with the airflow in this particular ductwork. So a bunch of big improvements there for the fabrication MEP side of things. Systems analysis, this gets a little out of my wheelhouse on the systems side of things, but there are some new tools for if anybody on the MEP side wants to talk about what a psychrometric report is, it has something to do with this graph over here. Sorry guys, this is just way out of my space. I think the one thing that was talked about last night that was big, that for these analytical reports, in the past they had to be spaces. Now we can actually choose to use rooms as well. So we can say use rooms and spaces. So you don't have to have spaces defined in all of your models. You can actually use the room elements. And that's what people said was like the really big kind of thing here.
Here to pause, we have a question regarding that root analysis, maybe since we're not too far away from it.
Sure.
So the question is, thanks, Jonathan, for that question. Jonathan Ludwig asked this. Can you specify vertices where direction changes? So for exit routings, they want to just see the path shown at 90-degree angles, right? Mm-hmm. There's some requirements for that, and not just the shortest route. So can that be done?
I wish I could answer that. I don't know, guys. I'm sorry. I just don't have enough experience with that yet.
Hard left, right, that kind of thing.
Yeah. We'll have to go and check that out. If we can maybe collectively just make a note of that, maybe it's something we can circle back with, double check, and get that answer over to Jonathan.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Maybe the rest of the group. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So design productivity we're still in that category. Family category improvement. So for those that are on Revit Preview, also known as the Revit Beta, but it's officially called the Revit Preview, there was a survey that they put out. We wanted to know what categories were most important to you guys that needed to be added to Revit. And they basically took a survey there. They did a bunch of customer surveys outside of the beta group, and they came up with this list. And so now we've got a bunch of new family category improvements. So everything from audio-visual devices, fire protection, down here, vertical circulation, right? So everybody's ever modeled an elevator and it had to be a generic model. Now it can actually have its own category because you can put it on vertical circulation, which gives you a lot more visibility, graphics, VG control over those objects rather than them just being generic models. There are also some additional things for subcategories like, for stairs, landings, runs and supports, walls, wall sweeps is now a subcategory, so you have a little bit more control over that as well. So a whole host of some new categories there for you. Not that we're stopping. I think there'll be more in other future versions. This is what they got in and we're able to test this year, and I think there'll be more in the future because I know that you guys aren't happy with just getting the ones that are here. There's a quick video, I think, that talks about this a little bit more. And this one's a YouTube embedded video, so let's give this a second. I know it looked blurry. There it goes. And then it'll play. And hopefully you guys can hear this through the audio because it has a little voiceover.
Revit 2022 introduces new family categories for equipment and building elements. These new categories include audio-visual devices, fire protection, food service equipment, hardscape, medical equipment, signage, temporary structures, and vertical circulation. Users can assign customized generic models to these categories and control their visual display as needed. These categories have the same functionality as existing Revit categories. Families assigned to these categories can be defined as cuttable in views and can be scheduled, tagged, and exported. These new categories make it easier to properly categorize equipment and building elements in Revit 2022.
All right, switch to the next slide. It was at the end. Let me pause there. First and foremost, Jay, can you let me know, did the audio come through okay on that? Were you guys able to hear it?
Came through pretty well, yeah. It was
Okay.
all right.
Good. So yeah, definitely some new family categories. I know that the audio, and it did it last night too, is having like little clicks and pops in between. I don't know why, and I can't fix it, so I apologize in advance for that. It's going to happen in a couple of the other videos. It's actually not cutting out any words. It's just kind of like pausing temporarily and then catching up. So just be aware that I apologize for that. It's got some pops and clicks in it.
We'll just laugh behind your back.
I'm sure you will. You'll heckle me. You'll tweckle me, right? It's Twitter heckle. Tweckle me on Twitter. All right. Structural engineers in the audience. Hopefully we've got some structural people. Hopefully we've got some people that are into doing some fabrication level rebar work. There's a bunch of, again, this year, a bunch of new stuff for rebar. This particular one is the ability to move rebars in a set, basically to move or remove individual bars in sets. For those that aren't aware, this is kind of akin to a group in quote unquote like normal Revit, where you can have a group and then you can exclude an element from that group. A rebar set is now the same way, where you can have sets that can be duplicated all around. But in this case, if one of these beams had a penetration in it and the other ones did not, you could just go in and modify that one set without having to redefine yet another set just to be aware for that kind of special condition. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one here quickly. Again, another YouTube video with a couple pops and clicks in it.
Revit 2022 improves rebar modeling and detailing for structural engineers and detailers, making it easier for you to move from disconnected CAD workflows to BIM and enabling you to model and detail faster and more accurately. You can now move or remove individual bars and rebar sets or area and pad reinforcement systems to avoid clashes with other rebars, openings, or other elements, while maintaining the logic of the rebar set or system. There is no need to split a set into multiple sets or to remove pad and area reinforcement systems, workflows that were complex and time-consuming. Multiple sets or systems can be edited at the same time. This new feature will significantly improve your efficiency and productivity in accurate reinforcement in CAD.
That was the end of it. Anyway, let me pause there for a second. Hopefully it pauses on the slide, but you guys can see it. Like, I'm an architect. I think most people know I was an architect by background, but now I start looking at this and like, that just looks cool, right? Like all the rebar that is in that kind of detail, and it's essentially fabrication ready. You can get all the exact weights, cut links, everything you need out of that view or that drawing. You can do shop drawings directly from this. But here's the thing that gets me is that even though we have all of this stuff in a model now, how well Revit will still continue to perform. If you go back to, if anybody goes back to early Revit days, and if you happen to have chatted with any of the founders, with Leonid or Erwin, one thing they always told me was, if you can, don't model round stuff. Because Revit, one of the toughest things to do, not just Revit, one of the toughest things to do in really any kind of geometry engine is to model round stuff, because it takes that much more processing power to show it as a round object. And now we're at the point where we're modeling, complex rebar structures, and there's even some more complex examples coming up here in just a moment inside of Revit models, and they're performing really, really well. And it's probably a good time to point out that and I've said this probably every year, but the one feature that never really makes it into a slide or anything is that every single thing that the Revit developers do when they're looking at a feature or a new feature for Revit is think about performance and try to make Revit faster, more efficient, et cetera, use better processing, use multi-threading if it can, right? There are some linear processes that cannot take advantage of multi-cores just because of the nature of the calculations that are going on behind the scenes. But Revit does have many, many multi-threaded processes in place. But the performance of it obviously has gotten so good over the years, and the fact that we can now move around models that have this kind of complex geometry is pretty impressive.
Yeah, what I like about the rebar getting really good is it's allowing the small and medium, which are usually the people that really utilize this. It seems a lot of the staid and steadfast firms, you talk about modeling rebar and they look at you like you're a freak from another planet. Like, we don't model rebar. And it's like, well, you're going to be losing your clients in the next, 3 to 10 years, because if you're not doing this, I mean, yikes.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's just one of those things that now that we can, people are doing it, and they're getting very efficient at it, and they're ultimately saving a ton of time and money because they're literally figuring all of this stuff out digitally before they get in the construction site. Right? If we can figure this all out ahead of time, it's a lot cheaper to fix mistakes here than it is when some guy's out on site, at whatever hourly rate, bending bar by hand and tying it by hand, right? To fabricate this as much as possible.
Pixels are cheaper than sledgehammers.
Yeah, but the thing that you're missing is the sledgehammers and those change orders. That pays for people's boats.
That's true. That's very true. So, and this particular slide is talking about modeling rebar using the real bar diameter. And I guess the difference here is really that everybody knows what rebar looks like. So the bars get called out as their sizes. What number is the bar? So number 3 bars, 3/8 of an inch. But ultimately, the bars have all those little ridges, those little bumps on it. So what this is really taken into consideration is what's the bar diameter if you went to the local home supply store to pick it up. It's a number 3 bar. In this case, it's a metric. But what's the actual bar diameter? Because we have to take into account those little bumps. If you don't, then if you're trying to actually squeeze all of this 50 pounds of stuff into a 5-pound sack, it's not going to make it. So we're, this idea to model by actual bar diameter, including what those, the kind of overall dimension would be, is something that's going to help avoid clash downstream. I didn't even know that was an issue in Revit, but I guess it is. This tool is really cool. This tool makes me, again, as an architect, wish that we maybe had a couple other tools that maybe use this tool as some kind of an array. This is a 2-pick. It allows the placement of a large number of bars and then rebar shapes, including like bends and hooks and things, extremely quickly. So the best way to look at this is just to go take a look at it. So another video dialing up here for you. And watch how fast some of these 2-pick things are.
In 2022, you can place rebars of exact dimensions aligned to any reference in the project with just 2 clicks. This reduces the number of steps needed to create paths accurately and precisely. This is huge for rebar modeling, and it is a real game changer for ease of use.
That sound is blowing up.
Sounds blown up. So yeah, sorry guys. I think you get the gist, right? Just it's fast to do this kind of like complex rebar modeling with some of these new tools and features they have there. Check out this one. So anybody out there do parking garages, right? Concrete structures like this. Look at
Kinda
this
like-
ramp. You know, what was that, Jay?
Kind of like most everybody out here.
Yeah. It's double compound curve, right? Curving, sloping ramp with complete rebar detailing in it. So what this video, or I'll probably skip the video, is talking about is basically allowing these shape codes to be applied to rebar now. So that basically you've got this definition. The guys that do rebar all the time understand what this all means, but this is the idea that you can apply that definition to it and keep things consistent when you're modeling the rebar in the first place. And just to save time, we're on slide, just to give you a sense, we're on slide 27 of 85. That's why this thing seems to take a long time. There's just a ton of features to go through. So I'm going to skip through some of the videos from time to time. Remembers the settings when placing rebar. Again, just another rebar option. There's other things in Revit we're going to talk about that now remember their settings. So I think you guys will appreciate that when we get to it here in just a little bit. Rebar performance, we talked a little bit about performance. This one is specific to a rebar itself. You know, you got a sheet like this that has all of these kind of shop drawing details on it with all of that round bar and all the hooks and bends and everything else. But they've done a lot to improve panning, zooming when you're looking at 2D things like this and regenerating these views as quickly as possible. All right. Now moving out of rebar, now we're into steel detailing. And so for those that haven't experienced this yet from the structural side, this is hugely impressive. We showed this a little bit last year, I believe, using Dynamo Player to start doing some of the, adding some of the 3D detailing elements to your models for you. What this is going to do is allow that same technique to apply, but make it a little bit more smart, because you can now kind of, in essence, define rules that says, I want to associate particular connections with different profile sizes. So you're going to be able to define these things in this new dialog box as a steel detailer, a steel structural steel guy, and say, hey, if it's this shape to this shape, then this particular clip angle applies. If it gets bigger, then we have to go up to a bigger clip angle, and like really specify these things. And then use the built-in Dynamo Player then to quickly place these things on that kind of rules-based approach throughout an entire model. Again, I think the best way to describe this is just to quickly show it. So this YouTube video highlights here and gets going, you'll get a better idea what I'm talking about. Sorry guys, I meant to take the time to go through and cut out all the splash screens, but they're all there.
Even without sound, it's pretty logical.
Pause for a second. What was that, Jay?
Now you keep it going.
Okay.
Keep the video going. I'm just saying, even with the sound's not coming through, but it's able to be followed. It's still pretty good.
Can be based on your local practices and standards, and they are intended to help you save time when placing simple steel connections. Once you have configured your library, you can open your Revit project and begin using your predefined rules to place steel connections automatically. Start Dynamo Player and open the steel connection sample scripts provided with Revit 2022. Look for the sample scripts with names ending in by ranges, as these utilize the ranges of applicability. For example, you might use the beam to columns by ranges script to insert clip angle connections automatically in your 3D model that follow the rules saved in your library. Window select the steel members in your Revit model to be connected. Then locate the library file to be used by the rule and press the play button in the Dynamo player to create the steel connections. The connections are automatically inserted in your project, and the correct types are selected in accordance with the ranges of applicability.
I'll go ahead and pause there. I know it's breaking up, but if you didn't see it, like there was some connections in here, and basically they Aaron in this case window highlighted all of the steel, made a couple selections, hit play, and then it applied all the rest of the connections to all of the steel, like across the entire model. So just super quick as far as being able to get those kind of high-end details. And it also brings me back to that same talk I had earlier about what not to do in Revit. I remember there was a time not that long ago where we said, whatever you do, don't model bolt heads and anchor bolts in your Revit model because it's just going to slow it down. And then now what are we doing? We're modeling bolt heads and anchor bolts in our Revit model because now we can. The performance has gotten well enough to be able to do all those things. All right. Design productivity enhancement here around category list sorting improvement. Basically, I think the key word here is consistency. All these lists now sort alphabetically consistently. In the past, they seemed to kind of look like they were going to go alphabetically, and then you'd go down the list and you'd find an A thing somewhere else in the list. So they've just done some improvement there to make sure that these lists are much more consistent than they used to be. This is in schedule and material takeoff property dialog boxes in this particular case. So a little thing. Improved parameter identification UI. This one's actually really big. So there's a couple things going on here, and there's going to be a video that's going to show this. So in this case, we're in this schedule properties dialog box, and we could be in the project parameters dialog box as well. Couple of new things to look at here. Parameter name search field. So you have a search bar, and for those of you that have a massive list of parameters, which is probably a good chunk of you on the call, and for those of you that have mastered the flick scroll, and what I mean by that is you click in the dialog box and you scroll the wheel as fast as you can to try to get to the bottom of the list because you know that your parameter is down farther. You don't have to do that anymore. What you'll be able to do is first and foremost start searching by just start typing a name in this box. So in this case, they type finish, and it's now auto filtered available fields and schedule fields and finding anything that happen to meet that criteria. So you see finish, 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 and then some finish things over here as well. Then below that, you have another thing that by default is actually collapsed. So this little drop arrow is the other way, and it just says filter available fields. So if you drop that down, then you've got a couple other filter capabilities. You can now say, I want to filter by parameter type. Is it a project parameter? Is it a shared parameter? Is it a global parameter, et cetera? What discipline is it? The value type, is it a type or is it an instance? So you can really start to take these really long lists that I know all of you guys have, and it should make it a heck of a lot easier to find the actual parameter that you're looking for when you're, in this case, in schedule properties, or if you're over here in the project parameters list, same thing. Search field and this whole filters dialog box for those really long lists. I believe, yes, I do have a quick video for this. Again, it's going to have audio, but it should be kind of self-explanatory. Maybe I'll just mute it, let it play, and I'll try to do the voiceover myself, but I think I pretty much just explained it. I'm going to go ahead and just mute that. Going to go ahead and go into a schedule category here. One other thing, actually, I'll mention while I'll pause real quick. Did I pause it? No, it's still playing. One thing with multi-category schedules, something you could not do with a multi-category in the past was schedule any system object. Those are all now available. So multi-category can include walls, ceilings, floors. All the system categories are all now available in that list as well.
Finally.
Yes. I knew you'd like that one, Jay. So we're going through this, we're going through the kind of different filter fields that you have. Is it project parameters? Is it by discipline? I want to get rid of all the instance. I want to see the types. Kind of pretty self-explanatory. And as you start to type, it's going to auto filter that on the fly as you're typing out these things.
Also going to be a good thing. Can we tap into this with the API? Because this would be a good tool to be able to tie into relieve us of the garbage that people can introduce into a project.
That never happens.
Well, if it ever does on every single project ever.
So I assume yes, because every new feature from, I forget what the Revit release was, if there was something being done, it had to have an API behind it. So I believe that this is something that should be covered by the API that was either programmed in the first place or that API has been made available, but it's definitely something I can follow up with you on and verify, but that's my assumption.
Yeah. That's good.
All right. Load Autodesk Family. So this actually came around last year. It was considered a preview technology. For those that didn't know it was even there, it's definitely something you can find in the ribbon now. What this is going to let you do is a couple things. One is that maybe as a company, you don't want any of the out-of-the-box content, and you don't have to get it when you download, right? You can say, don't give me the content, and it won't. And that's going to save you potentially like 2 gigs or more of a download in the first place. But the button is available, so if you want to go out and load any of the out-of-the-box content, you can use the Load Autodesk Family content browser, and then go out and search. But not only search for stuff in what you might be used to as a family library, you can actually search across all of the content that's available worldwide, because we do actually have different content packs. If you're in the UK, or you're in North America, and of course North America has Imperial and Metric, or you're in Australia, or you're in Japan. So if you happen to be doing work overseas, another country, and you need content, you can go get it now using this Load Autodesk Family. You get all the thumbnails. Again, it is searchable. There's filters. You can pick the categories that you want, and then you can load them directly from here as well. This is Load Autodesk Family as a technology preview, and now as a real tool is kind of what I've been told is step 1 of this. What we'd like to do, or the developers, I guess I should say, would like to do at some point next, is also make this available for you guys to have your own content in this content browser. So as a company, you could say load family, not Autodesk Load Family, and then from a drop down say out of the box content or my content. And then your stuff would be filtered and searchable and have thumbnails and all of that stuff here. And then what I understand phase 3 might be at some point down the road is then manufacturer's content. So if you need that steel case chair or the Herman Miller thing or whatever it might happen to be, the manufacturers could actually start adding some of their content into this thing as well. But right now, it's for all the out-of-the-box content. It decouples it from a download, so you don't have to download massive amounts of data, but you can always still go out there and get the stuff that you might need to have that it comes out of the box with Revit.
And just a comment about that, and it kind of ties into the parameter filtering and dealing with the parameters that we were talking about a moment ago. Go try to pull in something from, let's say, Italy, and what you get is every Italian material and shared parameter. So to be able to clean these up, and ultimately, hopefully Autodesk is thinking about, hey, if we're putting content from all around the world, maybe we should get the shared parameters at least in some sort of consistency, because to have Italian shared parameters and Chinese and French and British and American is just, it doesn't work with all of the ways that we have to submit buildings. So note to self.
True. Let's go over here and let's look at the Trello board and see what might be upcoming in a future release of Revit. Oh, wait a second. What is this thing? Cloud-based parameter definitions. Maybe that has something to do with it. And click into that. Not a whole lot of details yet. Sasha Crotty is the kind of owner of this thing, or at least she added this card. Create a system for cloud-based parameters management facilities, data standardization and collaboration. Kind of sounds like what Jay was talking about. Maybe some kind of standardization via the cloud of parameters worldwide.
Well, they see that, I mean, in Britain, you have to have the whole, very specific set of parameters that get tied into Kobe and all of that, and those standards. It's very rigid. So
absolutely.
Either we're going to adopt that, or there will be a new one that everybody, or it's translatable, hopefully.
Yeah, agree. And then while you're talking, we can just kind of play this one in the background. This is what it looks like, right, live as a recording. But you know, what geo, what language you want to go into, what region. So there's both region and language, and then you can search. Right now, there's over 3,000 results. This is actually how I got the new RPC stuff. Is I actually didn't download content myself, but I needed them for my demo. So I went in here, typed in RPC, it came up with a list, downloaded them to my loaded them actually directly into this project, and that's how I got the content for the demo today. Pretty self-explanatory. Let's move on. Oh, it's playing in. Come on, move on. There we are. All right, some other small enhancements, but sometimes the small things are the big things because they're the ones that you guys have been asking for quite some time. So this one is a couple of remembering things. Remember Modify tool settings across Revit sessions. So if you're in Modify and you always like your mirror to be a copy and you check that box off, it will always stay that way until you change it. It's not going to default back to having copy unchecked. Or a lot of people have align, they want align multiple, and you want that multiple checkbox, and then every time you go back to align, the multiple's off again. All of those settings will now remember across your sessions where they last were, and will stay there until you change them.
Everybody using Revit, talk to everybody else you know using Revit, so they know that.
Right. Remember last used tab in the materials browser. So this one I think is called the Phil Reed tool. So for those that know Phil Reed, you know, he is one of the guys at Inkscape now. They obviously do a lot of stuff in materials on the Revit side for Inkscape. He says when he comes to the materials browser, the only place he ever needs to go is appearance. And every time he comes there, it always goes back to identity. And then he has to go click appearance and scroll through the list. So now if you select the appearance tab and then exit out of this and then exit Revit and then come back in later, it will still be on the appearance tab in the materials dialog box. The last kind of small enhancement here is just around the overall Revit homepage itself. That's the loading screen that you see when you first get in Revit, which has your recents files, has access to your cloud projects, whether they are now BIM 360 or the Autodesk Construction Cloud in Autodesk Docs. It's another kind of subtle improvement, but you will see that everything inside of Revit 2022 now no longer says BIM 360. It all says Autodesk Docs, and instead that's really that's the basis for everything we're doing now in the cloud is Autodesk Docs. Eventually, not immediately, but eventually the whole idea around the older system of BIM 360 will eventually get phased out and go away, and everything will be on the Autodesk Docs platform. Just so you guys know that. No time frame. I have no idea how long that transition is going to take, but that's the writing's on the wall. That's the direction things are going in.
Is there a loading up enhancement with the managed cloud models?
I think there's a slide that talks about that somewhere in here, that there's definitely a productivity enhancement around that particular feature of getting things up into the cloud quicker than they do now.
Cool.
Other small enhancements. So a whole bunch of new things. I can't believe we haven't gotten to all of these yet, or I say we, it's the developers, it's not me. I can't believe the developers haven't figured out every single dialog box yet and made them all resizable, but they've tackled more again this time. I'm sure they still have missed some. At some point, somebody told me the number of dialog boxes in the actual kind of programming in that Revit has, and it's substantial. I forget the number, but it's huge. But anyway, these now are all resizable, transfer project standards, Sync Central, purge unused, wall sweeps, warnings, multi-line text editing, and the view filter panels all have that little resizable grip down in the bottom of them now. So I'm sure that some people definitely appreciate that. Yeah. They were getting, some of these were getting so pinched as room names and things, not room names, just names of things got longer. You had to make them adjustable so you could actually read all the text that was in them.
Does it remember the last size they were left at?
I sure hope so, considering we just got done with another slide that said things remember where they last were. I don't know for sure, Jay, if they do. I hope they do. All right. We're moving on to the next section of interoperability, but I want to pause there. Obviously, I've talked a ton already. We've covered, well, we started a few minutes late as we let people come in, so almost an hour and a half, and I'm through the first section. So you kind of see like the kind of amount of stuff there is to talk about, and there's a lot more to come. But at that point, let me stop down. Have there been any additional questions come into the Q&A panel, or does anybody want to come off on mute and ask anything to this point?
Yeah, I think now would be the time to come off mute. There are no questions waiting in the queue right now. So if anybody does have anything to say on point or questions.
Looks like silence is golden. We'll take that for what it is, and we'll move on.
There you go.
All right, interoperability. So maybe a slight golf clap or a round of applause on this one. Revit now has its own built-in 2D PDF tool. So from the export menu, not from the print menu. Thank you. Was that you, Jay?
No.
No.
No, all right, somebody else. Oh, somebody typed yay into the Q&A box. So not in the print box, because that's where you used to have to do it, because you used to have to install a print driver for any number of different PDF tools that were out there. Now you go into export PDF. You're going to get a dialog box, which is very much like the print dialog box. A couple extra things in it. Obviously, you can define your sets as you did before. Name those sets, have those sets be easily repeatable to be created as PDFs. An additional part of this dialog box is what's open here, which is basically a set of parameters that allows you to set the naming rules. So how do you want these PDFs to actually be named when they're spit out? So is it by sheet issue date, in this case, sheet name, sheet number? Somebody in this example has a shared parameter called sheet sort order, right? So that could be in here as well. So now you could have a numerical sequence, so you could tell the PDF how to actually get organized from 1 to 500 or however many sheets you have, so they actually appear in the correct order. The other thing is that a couple things. One is that if you use this dialog box or this size dialog box here, and it says use sheet size, if your particular set has mixed media in it, meaning some is 11 by 17 and some is 24 by 36, it will actually detect the sheet size from Revit and make the appropriate sheet size in the PDF. So you don't have to do a special thing to print a set of 11 by 17s and then go in and do another print setting to do a full size set instead, right? You can actually print them all at the same time. It will detect the sheet size inside of Revit. The other thing that this does is, because this is built into Revit and has Revit's intelligence, is that all of the callouts, whether they're section, detail callouts, level markers, et cetera, all get translated into the PDF. So if you do click on a section head, a level marker, a detail callout, it will take you to that particular PDF in the set.
This is really awesome, and I would hope or wish that Autodesk brings back the markup capabilities from within Revit with either these or whatever other documents, because please save us from, let's just say, other software.
I think we hear you there. I think there's definitely some things on the horizon for that. We know we're round tripping issues from BIM 360 back into Revit today. I know there's an effort to do some similar things around markup. So we're going to show you a tool here in a little bit, which is called a shared view from Revit, which is going to allow you to have some markup capabilities directly from Revit with whoever you want to share that link with using our Autodesk viewer. So maybe that will help out a little bit, but I hear you, Jay. Definitely we wanted to enhance those kind of capabilities. What's been playing on the screen is just showing you how you can set up the sheet naming conventions. This is the export dialog box and what it looks like. Again, I think probably one of the #1 most requested things in the Revit wish list was PDF export. So it's here. Excited to see how you guys are going to use this and how it helps in your productivity. All right. Oops, sorry. Let's play it again. How many Rhino users are out there? Oh, it looks. Does Jonathan have a question? Somebody has a question in the chat.
It wasn't a question, Scott. It was just a comment on the sheet sorting. That's awesome.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I hope that works out, being able to use that shared parameter and plop that in there, so that your sheet numbering convention and your sort order is actually part of your sheet name, and that helps you get those things more organized.
Yeah, so instead of being able to do it in that dialog box, which would be the logical things, the developers took the easy way out and said, well, everybody puts this bullshit parameter in their sets anyways, because we can't create a software that can order things in a custom way. So, let's just use that. Screw doing it on our own.
I don't know if that was the exact conversation, Jay, but maybe.
Maybe just the quiet voice that they never said out loud.
Did I say that? Did that come out? All
Oh,
right.
was I unmuted there? Shoot, sorry.
Rhino files. So obviously a huge amount of Rhino being used. Obviously a lot of colleges, universities, even down to the high school level. Bill Brown was on the call last night. I don't know if he's on the, I don't see him in the list today, from Santiago High School out in Corona. He's got a Rhino demonstration happening next week for his high school students. So a lot of Rhino being used. It was really tough to get Rhino into Revit in the past. They had to get converted into an SAT file, or you had to use something like Rhino Inside, or you had to use something like the Rhino scripts, which is basically a Rhino Dynamo script, and get those things in. Now we can actually just link native Rhino 3DM files, and not insert, but actually link directly into Revit sessions. They obviously keep their fidelity, their layers are preserved, they're controllable by visibility graphics. You can snap to that linked geometry in those projection views, and they reload. So somebody wants to go modify the Rhino file, they save it basically back over the same file again, and we go into reload links inside of Revit, and it will update. The cool thing is this also works through BIM 360. So if you have a Rhino file as part of a larger project, you can store it in your BIM 360. And I'm using that interchangeably. It could be one of the new Autodesk Construction Cloud projects as well. So BIM 360/ACC. You can put that 3DM file or files in a project folder and link from Revit through BIM 360. And then again, if that Rhino file gets updated through the cloud, then when the person either opens that Revit session again or reloads the links, the Rhino file will update. So great new feature there to be able to get more interoperability around file types in and out of Revit. Oh, here's a quick video to show you that. It's probably self-explanatory. Maybe we skip it, but kind of a cool looking piece of geometry. I think there's voice, but I'm going to mute it again because it's been so cracky so far. Pretty cool looking model. I forget exactly what they say in this, but you saw it actually just shows up in the drop-down list with the other file format types. So that's where you find it. Go to the files of type, pick 3DM instead. There it is as a CAD format, loaded, save path. Again, if it updates, here as it is from BIM 360, right? So if we just upload that 3DM to BIM 360 and then use the linking methodology using inside of BIM 360 to Revit, we make an update there and it will update across into the project as well. All right, moving on. This one actually, to me, is pretty darn exciting. I've talked about this to a number of you before. I don't know if I mentioned it at past user groups, but there was always this idea that, we needed a better way to get from Revit into Format and then back again. And this might be that tool that helps some of you get over the hump to actually start using Format more in production. I know it's been out there for quite some time. There's a lot of heavy SketchUp use for sure out there. But again, just that whole idea of interoperability, I think this is going to be really cool for you guys. So what this does is allows you to take a Revit model, any Revit model, and then from inside the Massing and Site tab, there is a button that says 3D Sketch. When you click that, what it's going to do, as long as you have Format 2022 installed, which actually also came out yesterday, so you guys can go download the new version of Format as well. If you try to do this in a previous version of Format, it won't do it. It'll fail. You don't have the right version. But it takes the geometry, whether it's the entire model, you have a choice, I'll show you in a moment, the entire model or anything you might have selected, and it will send it over to Format and open it in Format. It creates it as a layer inside of Format. You've got control over it, meaning you can turn it on or off. You can actually lock that thing. And then a designer in Format, maybe it's the project architect that knows nothing about Revit at that point. And maybe it's one of those ones that you don't want in your Revit model, can then quote unquote sketch using Format over the top of the Revit model. And then there's another button inside of Format that you can't quite see on this screen, but I'll show you in a minute, that says send back to Revit. And then the geometry shows back up in your Revit model as an object. This is pretty cool. Let's go take a look. So I'm actually going to do this live. We're going to come over here. I'm going to reopen and we'll just go to the sample project down here at the bottom of the list. I haven't saved this. I guess I better save for a moment.
Hey, and we're going to grab the Revit sample project out there as an NFT.
I saw that somebody did that.
Yeah.
I didn't know what an NFT was. I had to go figure that out when I saw that tweet.
Yeah. You can go buy it, I think.
Yeah. It's basically a kind of a blockchain thing, right?
Yeah, but you can own it. You could be the owner of that, man, and it's just yours.
That's just wild. It's like you turn a Revit model into your own kind of digital currency, so to speak, because you own it.
Yeah, except he didn't build the model, so I bet he could be sued out of his skull.
Probably. So here's a Revit model, right? You guys have all seen this probably, I don't know, half a dozen or so times, maybe a million, I don't know. Go over to Manage and Site, Massing and Site tab, go to 3D Sketch. The first thing it's going to say, what do you want to do? Do you want to send everything, all visible Revit objects over to Format, or do you want to do selected objects? Well, I'm going to do everything because I didn't have anything selected. It only takes maybe, I don't know, last night it took 10, 15 seconds. It's translating this into basically a format that Revit can Format can handle. And then it's going to launch Format 2022, and we're going to see this model. So we'll give this another second or two. I told you only going to take 5 to 10 seconds. And of course, tonight it's taking longer. I'm going to blame it on GoToMeeting. There we go. So it's done. And now here comes Format 2022. They didn't put a number in their splash screen.
Is it faster if Format was already open in the background?
Yes. Yeah, it is. And it would have opened right away. So sorry, not prepared for the call.
That's okay. Just kind of for people that want to use it, just to point that out.
So check that out. Here's the Revit model, right? It's a little below, right? Like in Format right now, the ground plane is here at this kind of XYZ plane. And so you see some of it's underground a little bit, so to speak. So it's kind of sectioning it off, but that's not what we're really going to be concerned with at this point. You'll see that like the little no smoking symbol, I call it, when you hover over it. It's just because this particular piece of content is showing up as a layer here and it's currently locked. That's actually a new feature of Format, being able to actually have content, put them on layers inside of Format and then lock them so they're not editable. You're not accidentally dragging something out of the way or accidentally selecting on it. So if I unlock this, now I can go grab this thing. It's considered one giant object and do stuff with it. I'm not going to move it or change it around because I actually really want to keep it in the same position so that when we send stuff back to Revit, it's in the same spot. We can also control the visibility of it here in Format as well. But really what I want to do is come in and just start drawing something over the top of it. So I'm just going to grab a shape and come in here over this like sliding glass door area and just kind of sketch out what I think might be like a future awning kind of piece. So grab that. I'm going to take this guy by face, start to stretch it out a little bit. Just maybe we're just going to do like a little overhang for some sun protection. So as the project architect, I'm trying to convey what I want my designers to do in Revit, but I'm able to do it in Format without having to mess with the Revit model, show them what I would like. And then when we're done, we're going to hit this button which says send the selected model back to Revit. What it's going to do is basically send everything over except for the Revit model. So in this case, I've only sketched one thing. If I'd selected sketched multiple things, that I could select them individually and then say send back only the selected object. So it's not a one or all kind of thing. So I've done that. Now go back to Revit 2022, zoom in. Oh, I did something miserably wrong. my overhang is halfway through my glass. I don't know what happened. I didn't do that very well, but you guys get the idea that I've now taken a Revit model, sent it to Format, sketched over the top of it, sent it back into Revit, and now there's that overhang. I don't know. I'll have to investigate exactly what went wrong there, but I made that object funny. Now, this object's pinned by default, so I can't select it right now because I don't have, oh, I do have select pinned elements. So let me see here. Should be able to tab into this object. I did a lot, there it is. And now I can unpin it. If we look at its properties, it is an imported symbol. It's not a massing element or anything like that. It's really more or less kind of a placeholder kind of idea concept back inside of Revit. As a designer, I'd go back in and grab the right Revit tools, whether it was a roof or an in-place family or whatever it might happen to be, and then draw that in kind of over the top. But at least it gives us a pathway to get from Revit to a sketch-based application and back to Revit seamlessly in a workflow.
And then just delete that piece out of the model, out of the Revit model, and you're good.
Say that again, Jay.
And let's say you're finished creating a Revit awning, you just delete that import symbol?
Correct. Yep. I would just take this guy, and then when I'm done with it, tab, tab, tab. Where is it? A lot of tabbing. Go over here. There it is. Delete, gone. Cool stuff. Format has, the 2022 release has a whole host of new features. Dynamo has been inside of Format, but there's some new Dynamo nodes inside of Format as well. There's been massive, massive performance improvements in Format as well. So again, if it's something you've looked at in the past and you said, nah, maybe not yet, maybe it's time to go revisit that again. If you didn't know anything about Format, we have the tool, right? It's a very similar, many people compare it directly with SketchUp. It's very similar to SketchUp in the kind of capabilities that it has. I think it's a little bit more robust even. We've got the ability to do conceptual energy modeling, solar studies on top of that. Oh, there's a great way if you want to get quick topography into a model. So here, check this out real quick. So I'm going to go new sketch. I'm going to discard this guy for now. And I'm going to come over here into design tools, and I'm going to say location. And then it's going to bring up a map, and I can type in basically anything. It kind of knows that I'm in the LA Basin area. I live out here somewhere in Chino. I did this earlier today. For those that know this area, I'm going to come over here to Mount Baldy Road, and I'm going to go up somewhere where there's a lot more kind of context going on. So if we keep going up Baldy Road, if you guys haven't ever been up there, it's a cool drive. At the top of this, where is it? There's a parking lot which leads to the Mount Baldy Ski Resort. Shoot, where did it go? I saw it earlier today because I did this, and it was just a cool way to like kind of look at topography. There it is. All right, so here's the parking lot. I'm going to import the satellite image and terrain into Format. So there it is. I want to zoom back a little bit more. Oops, too far. So we're going to kind of like look at this parking area here. I'll put that in the middle, and then I'm going to say finish importing. And then by toggling on the terrain layer, now it's going to actually give me that three-dimensionality. And I picked this site on purpose because it's got a lot of slope to it, right? So here's a little parking lot, and this is kind of the edge of the Mount Baldy area. What's cool about that is I can now go send to Revit all visible objects. And I'm not sure what this is going to do in my current Revit session, but let's see. Oh, it tried. I should have done it from a brand new blank session, but it will literally take the site. I think this has a 3D section box inside of it is what's going on here. Yeah, it does. There we go. So there's my little model now inside of all of this terrain, right? So if you want some kind of like contextual terrain to start your Revit session on, use Format to get there like in 2 seconds. I just showed you how quick it was to do that.
By the way, rough grading, this just deleted the need for a civil engineer to be engaged until they're really set with what the finished grading is going to be on projects.
Yeah,
that is acceptable enough. Those satellite imagery are within the tolerance for rough grading and for any permitting and all that. So
very cool stuff. Yeah, I like it a lot. So, all right, I'll skip the video because I just showed you most of that stuff in Format. You can also import Format as a CAD format. So this isn't linked yet. I know that the development group is working towards linking AXM files. This is the file type for Format, AXM. So currently today you can insert it. So if you go to the CAD import, insert, go to the drop-down list under file type, you can find AXM, and then insert your Format models directly into Revit as well. Here's something cool to realize as well. Format can read SKP files natively. So you got the entire SketchUp warehouse at your repository, grab any SKP content, open it or insert it into Format, save it, and then if you want to bring that stuff into Revit, you can import it using import CAD right into Revit and have all of that content like right in your Revit project. That's kind of a cool workflow. Video, I think it shows that briefly. Let's see what this one has here quickly. And again, I'll mute this. I know it has a little voiceover.
Did they all get their own category to be able to filter them in and out of visibility and such?
Good question. I don't know if it did or not. I don't think so. I think because it's import symbol, I think it still falls under that category. There's the file format type in the drop-down list, AXM. whether you want to go bring in levels or not. If you bring in format levels, it translates them and creates Revit levels at those same places. Oh, materiality comes over. So any of your format materials get listed under this format category in the Revit material browser. So if you have a SketchUp, if you have a format model that has materials applied, all materials will come over as well.
We just got an incoming GIF of regarding the comment of import CAD.
Yes.
And just a GIF of somebody vomiting.
Yeah, I know. Link. We want Link, right? Link is coming, I think. I mean, I know it's something that they're working towards is getting to that capability. Well, I screwed up my PowerPoint. I exited out of it by accident. I hear you. Import is bad, right? Import's going to bring in all the stuff along with it. All right, more interoperability. Revit 2022 is now IFC4 certified. We're committed to interoperability through IFC as Autodesk as a company. We're part of the Building Smart Alliance. You know, a lot of probably not used as much here as it is in Europe, but IFC is becoming a very important part of interoperability between what we're doing inside of Autodesk products and what people are doing inside of other products as well.
Yeah, it's mandatory in most of the rest of the world.
Yeah. Some more interoperability between our products. So being able to bring inventor assemblies directly into Revit as Revit models. And what this doesn't say is actually converts Revit assemblies to Revit families. So then you can actually have a category to them as well. So if you have some manufacturer's content, or you're an architect that's designing a piece, but then you go out to get like kind of a real world fabricatable version of that, and that manufacturing group is using Inventor, you can take their Inventor models and then stick them directly in Revit as Revit families. That's a pretty darn cool workflow. Here's the 2D shared view. So this is one that I talked about earlier as well. This is going to allow you to take a 2D view. In fact, you know what, we tried it last night and it allowed us to do a 3D model as well, but the 2D views are kind of what's important here. This shared view, what it's going to do is from inside of a Revit project, you basically go to the view and then you say, create a new shared view, and then it will give you a link. Anybody that you share that link with then can click on it, and what it's done in the background is it's uploaded that particular link to viewer.autodesk.com, which is the viewing technology that we use behind the scenes inside of BIM 360 and the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So any of us use BIM 360 now, today, that's been in a model, done any orbiting, panning, zooming, been into a sheet view, we call that the large model viewer. That's also freely available through this thing called the Autodesk viewer at viewer.autodesk.com. The cool thing here is that you can actually then have a markup session with a person or multiple people. So what this looks like from the Revit side of things, oh, that's Format. Sorry, close out of that. Where's Revit? Went too quick. One more. So if I come here and I go into a particular sheet view somewhere, site plan, let's say, I think I've already done this once. So if I go into Collaborate, sorry, under the Collaborate tab, and I go to Shared Views, what it's going to do is it's going to pop open a panel for me over here. And I've actually already created one. And it does take a second, so I don't want to take up too much time. But if I take this sheet, it'll probably take 15 seconds maybe to kind of like translate this view and get it up to the viewing platform. But if I pick on this guy, there's a comment on it. So this actually, this comment came in from last night. This view is good from 30 days. Many of you guys know Troy. So Troy was the one that commented on my file last night. So I'm inside of Revit and it's telling me like, here's where it is. And he typed in a comment and then I can see that he graphically did something to a floor plan view. So now when I click on that, it's actually going to take me over to viewer.autodesk.com and load up that sheet that I shared with him and his comments, his markups.
Anybody with that link can get into the file though?
Anybody that you share that link with, yes. So it's something you want to keep private if you don't want anybody else to get to that particular thing.
But understand that when you send anything over the internet, nothing is private.
I hear you, right? So the links right now, at least in this particular one that I made, and I think this one was good for 30 days, and I think you can time, I think you can time bomb them on your own. I think you can set your own length. I'm not exactly sure how to do that yet, but I agree. Like, obviously, safety and security in mind. It's using this is a public URL called viewer.autodesk.com, but it is whoever has that link. So if I copy this right now and paste it, and I paste it into the GoToMeeting chat window, you guys all 38 people on the call could all jump in here and start marking this thing up all at once.
I dare you. No, don't do it.
I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. All right, so let's move on. Let me get Revit out of here again. Okay, so that's the shared view. I think that's pretty cool. You guys will have to tell me what you think. Try that out, see how it works. I mean, you don't have to be in the BIM 360 world. You don't have to know anything about BIM 360 to use that. It's its own separate standalone thing. Probably good if like you had a client that you didn't want to invite to a BIM 360 project. You just want them to see an individual sheet or a 3D model. You could temporarily share a view with them, get them to go check it all out. 3D models show up there again. They could go spin it around, do walkthroughs, go into first person mode. I should have shown that a little bit more in the toolbar at the bottom, but there's a whole host of tools there, including the markups that they can do as well. All right. That's the same thing because that's going to show how to do it. Skip. Cloud model improvements. So this is in particular around what we call a Revit cloud model, which is different than a Revit cloud work shared model. And a lot of people didn't even know that this existed. So this actually came out last year, I believe, that if you have a standalone Revit file that's not work shared, you have the ability, if you have access to a BIM 360 project, to save and work from that file from that BIM 360 project. It does not have to be a work shared project in order to be part of a BIM 360 project. So what this improvement is talking about is that the open cloud model wasn't, to get there wasn't inside of the open dialog box in the past. It was a little bit harder to get to. So they've basically done this to make it consistent, a little bit more discoverable about the tool. Just be aware that this is, again, not a cloud work shared model. This would be to open a standard, not work shared model from a BIM 360 project site. But those not work shared models can be part of a larger project. They can be linked into a work shared project and vice versa. So imagine you're working with a really small consultant. He's a standalone person by himself. He never work shares models. That person can now be part of a BIM 360 project by sharing a cloud model instead of a cloud work shared model to a BIM 360 project site. Okay, makes sense? All right, on to the next section. We're getting closer. I've only got 31 more slides to go, and we're at 2 hours already. Again, I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. Documentation efficiency. There's a lot here. This one actually got a lot of kudos last night as well. We now have the ability to make a schedule or add a category to a schedule about work sets and adding a work set parameter. So being able to basically create and schedule and filter by work set. So work set parameters available in the material takeoffs, view list, sheet list, and title blocks. Cool new functionality there. This shows you how to do it. I'm going to skip. I think it's probably pretty self-explanatory on how to do that. Earlier today, I talked about shared parameters in key schedules. Jay agreed with me that this is huge, especially around occupancy schedules and occupancy diagrams. And we talked about the filter schedule by family. The one thing I didn't talk about, and I don't think the video made it in here, is now there's actually a dedicated tool for splitting schedules across sheets. So the way that this works is that you pick your schedule, and there's a toolbar button that allows you then to say, hey, I want to split this schedule. You know, in previous versions, all you can do is split the schedule into columns and put them all on the same sheet. Now what it does is splits the schedule and then brings up a dialog box and says, what sheets do you want this schedule to go on? And so I could pick off 2 or 4 or 10. And then it says, do you want them split evenly, or do you want to have it be variable and adjustable? And then what you do is you take the kind of the first column of the split schedule and you drop it onto the first sheet. And then what it does in the background, it says, you said you also wanted it on these other 4 sheets, and it places the split versions of that in the exact same place in all of the other sheets. Now, if you go back to page 1 and you start grabbing the bottom grip of that, it's going to adjust the overall height of that schedule and readjust it on the other sheets for you as well. So it's truly a cross-sheet split schedule that maintains its fidelity, just like you would expect in a Revit schedule. So that one's really, really cool.
Does it predict how many sheets it's going to need? Let's say you have a schedule that's going to break down into 3, or like 3.5 sheets.
Yeah.
Does it kind of predict that, and you just place them and it'll just spit them out?
Yeah, if you say break it up evenly, then that's what it's going to do. It's going to say you said you want it on 3 sheets. I'm going to break it into thirds and put it on 3 sheets for you.
What I'm saying is, does it figure out how many sheets it would take at that size, at that length, or you have to figure that out still yourself?
I think you have to figure that out yourself. I don't think it has that built in yet, but that's actually a really great idea, as you say.
Yeah, they should think about the amount of columns to put the choice of column, how many columns you want, and then it'll say, oh, I need 10 pieces of this, which is going to take 4 sheets.
Yeah. In the background, just to save time, I'm playing, this is a key schedule. So what we're doing is actually controlling a room type by key schedule now, right? So basically switching these from office type A to office type B. This is where, maybe using shared parameters in a key schedule would help. So we've got some occupancy notes down here that are all tied to that, right? So some cool things going on there. Here's another way of thinking about how you might use shared parameters and key schedules to do some furniture layouts. In this case, they're going to take some of these table size and they're going to say, is it small, medium, or large? And by switching that shared parameter, then it's going to update the table sizes that, in this case, have been selected using that key schedule. Self-explanatory, I'm going to move on. Small enhancement, but I think very helpful. So every time you exported a schedule to out in the past, it basically made a text file. It was a comma delimited text file, but then if you wanted to go update that or look at that in Excel, then it had to go through the Excel translation process. You open the text file, it asks what your columns were and your headings, and on and on and on. Basically, we can skip that step now because all schedules export out as a comma delimited CSV file natively. So they're going to open much more readily directly inside of a scheduling application like Excel. Multiple values indication. I talked to you guys about this earlier, that you can say you want to display the varies, or you can put your own custom text in there. Obviously, you can customize that. Tag improvements, I think we hit upon this one, which was the ability to do kind of a multi-leader tag and picking those new hosts by doing add or remove host on that. Rotated tags, we basically added a lot more capability because we started doing some rotated tags in the past. I think we've got them all now, where you can specify a rotation value. You can say, is it set to the model or set to the view? So in this particular case, these tags were rotated by 3.5 degrees. So just more efficiency there, and having your drawings look the way you want them to. And hugely welcome addition, finally, the ability to actually tag a curtain wall mullion, right? So you can actually have mullions and mullion types and tag them, make a schedule out of them, and get all of the properties that you might need out of the mullion system itself.
Nice. How about section and elevation markers? Do those rotate? If you have that line down the center horizontally?
I thought we had fixed that at one point. You're stumping me now, Jay. I thought we had maybe fixed that in a past release, but now I'm second guessing myself. Maybe we didn't.
I mean, they don't work for me, but
okay,
somebody might have figured them out. I don't know.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Let me try to verify it, and I'll get back to you.
That's cool. It's something that I play with every release just to see if they fixed it under the hood anyways. So I'll know in about a week or two.
Very good. Multi-category tags for all taggable categories now. So you can apply a multi-category annotation to all taggable elements, use shared parameters and multi-category tags. I mentioned that multi-category schedules are completely opened up now to all families, including system families. So I think that's huge. And then we've got some additional subcategories like we talked about earlier. They're all available, like wall sweeps for walls is a subcategory of that now. So just I think a lot more capabilities there for you guys when it comes to documentation, multi-category stuff. Video, let's see what this shows real quick. If there's anything in it that I didn't cover, again, I'll mute it and maybe skip ahead a little bit. No, that did help. I tried to skip ahead. Oh, this is actually showing load Autodesk family. This is not the, oh, because they're loading in, sorry, because they're loading an annotation, multi-category tag in this particular case. So a good use of the load Autodesk family because it wasn't loaded by default. Going through the list, looking at all the loaded tags and symbols. What do you want to use? Multi-category tags now support all of those. We kind of talked about those briefly. Anyway, and even more for the analytical side and for MEP engineers. So I think that's probably the bigger help there is a lot of this tagging. Troy said last night on the call that for the MEP, this ability to have better tagging capabilities is really going to help the MEP side of the business. Okay, trying to get to the next slide. Link tag rehosting. This is for linked models. So all of you guys know that if you've got some particular model, you've tagged an element through a linked model, and then that thing changes to some degree and you reload, then you get orphaned tags. What's going to happen now is that they will try to rehost themselves. They're going to remember that element object ID, and when you unload and then reload links, they're going to try to reattach those orphan tags for you automatically. So that hopefully should save some time for you. I know nobody likes going through the drawing sets and trying to locate any orphan tags and fixing those things.
Hey, Scott?
Yes.
There's a question regarding those multi-leader tags. Are keynotes able to have multiple leaders if it shares the same keynote value?
I don't know. And that question came up last night, and I can't remember the answer. So I think Aaron might have brought that up and then opened Revit and went in the background. I think if I remember correctly, he tried it with a keynote, and I think multi-leader did work. But I don't want to steer you wrong, but that's my assumption at this point, if my memory serves me right, is that it did work for keynotes, but we'll have to double check. All right. This one's kind of cool. So you guys know that for quite some time by an instance value, we've been able to add a prefix and suffix to a dimension. Any dimension string, you could just click on it, go to edit it, and then add a prefix and suffix dialog box. Now you can actually make a type. So you can make an actual dimension type, add a dimension prefix and suffix to that and some alternate units if you wanted as well. And so now what I can do is select a whole bunch of dimensions where I want, in this case, for all of them to say approximate and then a value and then field verify as a prefix and a suffix, and then apply it across multiple dimensions all at once, or remove it and apply it back to a normal dimension style and remove those prefixes and suffixes to it. So again, hopefully a time saver there for you guys. Again, this came up for like renovation work a lot, and then the MEP side of things. Troy Gates said last night that this would really help him out immensely.
Yeah, that's helpful. Does it also still have the type values where you can have your type generating the two different values that you want? For instance, you can have the imperial units on top.
Oh yeah, right here. So alternate, right? So you can do that too.
And those are the type parameters?
Yes, these are type parameters, right?
Oh,
so in this case,
it's just added some more. Oh, I got you. Sorry.
Yeah. So in this case, primary unit has a suffix and a prefix that says approximate field verified, and then the alternate units is in millimeter, and it also says approximate and field verified. They didn't apply it in this graphic, but if that was applied here, we'd have kind of double lines of text, and one would be the imperial, and the one below it would look just like it, except have the metric dimension in there.
Yeah, I thought these were the instance parameters. That was my mistake, sorry.
Yeah, type parameters in this case. All right. This next one I think is going to help a ton of people. It's something that's been asked for quite a long time. You can finally make your own revision numbering sequences, right? So you're not stuck with the out of the box alphanumeric or numeric. You can literally define your own, and it's pretty smart and pretty intelligent. This is going to help for like things like ASIs, RFIs, those kind of things. You can transfer these things between projects using transfer project standards. It's going to help you meet the ISO 19650 certification that is required in a lot of locales. Again, I think it's ISO 19650 is a more of a European standard, but it's definitely something that's making its way over to North America as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick. You'll see what I mean by being able to create your own. So you have the ability to define it first and foremost, give it a name for the sequence. Come on.
Revit 2022
Oh.
provides a set of enhancements.
I'm going to try to do this myself. So we're going to go down here. We're going to look at the ones that are defined. This one is now ASI. You can go to customize numbering. You have the add, new, create down here. You give it a name. You tell it what kind of type it is, how many digits, what the starting number is, if it should have a prefix, should have a suffix, et cetera, et cetera. Then we're going to create a new numbering sequence here. And of course, again, prefix, suffix, and then in the custom sequence, you can say, you know, I don't want the O's and I don't want the I's because they look too much like zeros and ones. So we can take those things out. Pick OK. Pick where they apply to, where they were using transfer project standards, where we want those to go to another project. Now doing revision cloud, and we can see that we're getting some customized revision numbering going on over here in the dialog box. So hopefully that one helps you guys out. I know that's been a long requested feature as well. Another one that has been you know, on the list for a lot of people for a long time is being able to place spot slopes and elevations on ramps. So a couple of new tools there available for you. Basically being able to you know, put arrows on ramps to designate the actual incline in this particular case, or tagging the landing so you know exactly how where they sit in space and elevation wise, and then being able to customize all these annotations as well. Going a little fast, I'm trying to get through this stuff quickly for you guys because I know it gets really long. There's just still more to cover. This one is one that's like, oh my gosh, I told you I've been with Autodesk now 14 years, and then WLC prior to that 8 years, and then my Revit experience goes back to the year 2000 when I first started. And I think we wanted this back like in Revit 1.0. The ability to only show the core, what's defined as the core layer of walls in basically in Revit, in plan, section, you know, et cetera, anywhere that you're cutting through it. So we can finally do that. In visibility graphics under walls, there's another new subcategory that says non-core layers. And when you uncheck that for that particular view, and again, because it's visibility graphics can be templatized, I don't know, put into a template, a view template. And you can now say only, like, I'm thinking structural engineers. Like, I'm the architect, I've got gyp over here and some tile and all this other crap, and like, I don't care. I want a dimension to the core, and I only want to see the core. That's what you get now. You have the ability to turn that off, turn off those non-core layers, and only visualize that stuff in your views.
Can I get fire rating too now?
Fire rating, like as like a tape symbol.
Yep, that would be the next. I think the next step right there as a pattern is a checkbox. That's
right.
Just my 2 cents, but
that one's been needed since like 2000, like Revit 1.0 as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, well, we'll go back to development. I'm sure that's in Revit ideas. I don't know if it's in. I'll have to look in the Trello board and see if that's on the roadmap or not yet. If it's not, we need to collectively do what we can to bump that one to the top of the list, because I'm in complete agreement with you on that one.
I mean, you know, those whole exiting diagrams, if they could have the fire rating in there too,
yeah,
we could have one piece of paper to bring to this, you know, municipalities. Hey, I have a question regarding the orphan tag technology.
Sure.
What about dimensions?
That slide only talks about orphan tags, not orphan dimensions. So I don't think it applies there yet, but I could be wrong. I'm just not 100% sure. Would be good, right? We need that same thing. We need those dimensions to know what they were tied to. And when they do get orphaned, they should try to, you know, reassociate themselves if they could remember that object ID back to that same object, the same way that the tags do. All right, I talked about grids in 3D already, so we'll go ahead and skip that one. That's pretty self-explanatory. Oh, just so you know, so there's where it is. The properties of the view is where you can say whether you want to show grids or not. There's a few other functions there as well. All right, next slide. That's going to show you 3D grids. We've been there, done that. Phase parameters in view filters. This one I think is going to be huge. So what you now have in the view filters is a couple of new parameters. You've got the ability to do phase created and phase demolished. What does that mean? That means as a view filter, you can apply it to a view and then color code, well, not just color code, but have the graphic overrides by a filter depending on when something was created or when it was demolished. So the case they're showing back here, they've got, instead of the just kind of the out of the box, you know, existing, new, and demo phases, imagine a project where you need to describe that these walls and doors are being done in phase 1 of the project, and these walls and doors are being done in phase 2 of the project, and these are being done in phase 3. You can now set up those phases and color code all of those things by phase, depending on what those objects happen to be in. The opinion last night with this might do away with the kind of normal phase filter overrides, because this is even maybe far more powerful than the kind of overrides you get with phasing. But I really excited to see what you guys are going to do with this one. This got a lot of kudos last night. A lot of people thought this was a really, really great new enhancement, new great feature that we have.
It's because they didn't understand phasing.
Yeah, well, it could be too. I'll play this. Let's take a quick look. Trying to skip ahead just a bit.
One of the most efficient.
So we'll go through here. So basically what Aaron Vorwerk in this particular case is looking at, grabbed a set of walls and he set those things to phase 1. Now he's going to go to the filters dialog box inside of visibility graphics, go to the walls category, and inside of that now you'll see that for walls, and it could be other objects, that you now have the rules for phase created and phase demolished, and you can set up your filter rules. So when these things equal phase 1 for created, and then he's doing the same thing for doors, when doors equal phase 1 or phase 2, then we can go in and we can say override those things by filter and make them a color, a pattern, a line type, a cut pattern, et cetera, et cetera. There we are, displaying back in the model depending on, you know, what color coding you applied by filter. That one's pretty fantastic. I really like that one. Here's the default color fill scheme. Like I told you earlier, like these colors used to be what I call much more harsh, maybe, and now the kind of default out of the box color schemes are more pastel. I guess just in time for springtime. Well, at least spring here in the northern hemisphere. But those are what you get. What they say is like, what everybody seemed to do before was go in here and then spend a lot of time going through and changing all of the RGB values because they were all too intense. And so the idea is now, hopefully out of the box is a lot more visually appealing, saving you guys some time, so you're more satisfied with what it looks like out of the box.
So we don't have to predefine 300 different kinds of rooms with their colors already set up. So when we have 150 rooms, we don't have horrific colors.
Yes, like this, like these bright colors, something like that.
Well, no, what you do in the old days, you would just set up your own program and have all those colors sitting there in the background, and then you just use them. So now we can just maybe use it out of the box. That would be awesome.
Exactly. This one is going to be hugely used. Anybody that's been into visibility graphics in the past and wanted to do some override on multiple things, but they were all the same, you had to pick one, set the override. Pick the next one, set the override to the same thing. Pick the next one, set the override to the same thing. You can now use Shift and Control inside of the dialog box, picking off any number of things that you would want, then set the projection, the visibility, whether it has an enabled filter, transparency, etc., for those group selections all at one time, rather than doing them individually. That's it. Just something to save you guys some time, so you eliminate kind of the massive picking and clicking that you had to do these things in the past. All right. Preserved callouts between when you delete parent views. This is the whole idea between a parent-child relationship in views when you're doing the what do you call them? You guys know what I'm trying to say. Callout views. So what was that?
Is it dependent views or just callout?
Dependent views. In this case, look, it's showing it's actually showing a callout over here, right? So switch between parent and intersecting views. Callouts and intersecting views are visible. If you delete the parent view, the callout will be preserved. So maybe it's not dependent views. Maybe it's just callouts at this particular time.
One-off callouts.
Yeah. So it does say though, look in this dialog box. So make the callout views independent. That makes me think it's kind of dependent view, but anyway, at least we'll have better association between those things where we're not just deleting objects and suddenly half your callouts are gone.
Yeah, it gives you the choice to either delete the callouts or just make them independent.
Yeah.
So it's talking, it may or may not be talking about dependent views, because the callout is still dependent on the view it depends on.
Yeah, you got it. For lack of a better way of describing it, right? Maintain annotation orientation. Again, Troy said this is huge for MEP last night. So more categories have been added to this for electrical equipment, generic models, et cetera, shared nested families, so that if you need tags rotated a certain way, that annotation orientation is going to remain no matter what happens with the elements in the model behind it. Some fixes to key MEP documentation, and I didn't know this because I wasn't sure, but I guess we didn't have all of the riser symbols available, so we fixed some of those. We have, I think, I won't say all yet because I don't know if we have all of the symbols. I hope we're getting close for riser symbols, vertical tags, offset tags, et cetera, but we've gone through and cleaned up a lot of those kind of key documentation things for Revit MEP and improved the way that they actually appear in single line diagrams as well. Hopefully makes the MEP guys on the call more happy. Auto shading and 2-column panel schedules. That has to do with coming over, if I get my cursor coming over here, different settings for these circuiting tables and the kind of gray shading that's going on here. You can say auto shading for displaying the load, where there's no value applied. It will actually start auto shading these things in for you automatically. And if values start to apply there, then it obviously removes the shading and shows the value. Okay, so again, just helping speed up some of the efficiency of how these things look in drawing in your documentation. All right, on to the developer tools. There's only a couple slides and we're on the outro. We're on the way out 2.5 hours later. A ton of new stuff for Dynamo. 67 more commonly requested nodes have been added. For those that haven't gotten into Dynamo yet, it's the easiest way to get access to the Revit API without knowing anything about the Revit API. These nodes that get presented in Dynamo are essentially nodes of the core Revit programming language. So they're helping you tell you what do you have access to, and you can take these blocks and then wire them all together and do programming and do stuff with them. It's pretty amazing. I would say if you're like a BIM guru and you haven't dabbled in Dynamo yet, or you're not like really into Dynamo, then you need to be. It's one of those tools that's going to become a huge part of your tool set. It's going to help you with automation. It's going to help you with repetitive tasks. There's a huge Dynamo community out there. So if you don't know how to start, or you want to see if somebody has a graph that's similar, that community is very forthcoming, and people will help get you on the way, or get you at a starting point, or even give you something that they've already done. So lots of cool stuff there. So Revit 2022 ships with Dynamo 2.1. I'm sorry, yes, Dynamo for Revit 2.1, and that's locked down. When we come out with a Revit point release later on this year, so at some point there'll be a 2022.1 and then possibly a 0.2 and a 0.3, depending on where Dynamo's at. We may update that Dynamo package along with it. We've tied it to the version of Revit so that anybody working 2022 assures that they're all working in the same version of Dynamo there. All right. New APIs, and there's a few here that really stand out. First and foremost, the Sketch API basically allows you to access sketch-based geometry through a programming language. So what does that mean? It means whether you really want to get into like the core programming in Revit and doing stuff in like C# and those kind of things, or you want to use a Dynamo node, a Dynamo graph to help you get in and actually create stuff that is sketch-based, you'll be able to do that through a sketch-based API. I saw even yesterday, John Pearson, for those that might know him from the Parallax group, he posted something. He's like, how to abuse the Sketch API for ceilings already. And he had some like crazy looking ceiling going on that was created through some graph that he made. This one caught the attention of Jim Balding yesterday. It says viewport label on the sheet. So I have to read off of the speaker notes here. What this says is that for viewport label on a sheet, you can control the 2-dimensional label offset from the left bottom corner of the viewport to the left end of the viewport label line. You could also control the length of the viewport label line in sheet space. That's all things that are controllable through the API. So you now have the ability to have like a Dynamo player routine that could go through a drawing set and make sure that all of your view titles are consistent from left to right and overall length on your drawing sets. Right, that's maybe one example of how you might use that. Cloud Model Initiate and Link API, right? This is that ability again to use a programming interface to actually get models initiated into BIM 360 Design and be able to link models using BIM 360 Design. So there's a lot of like kind of really cool possibilities there. I will tell you the other side of this is the use of Forge in some of this. There's actually an upcoming accelerator that is on what's called the Revit Design Automation API. If you search for Revit Design Automation API through Google, I believe it comes up. There's an upcoming workshop that I think is in next week or the week after. It's in April. It's a 4-day event that is several hours a day, I think 3 or 4 hours a day, but it's a great event because what that Revit Design Automation API workshop is going to do is help you understand how you might automate processes through using Revit instances that are running in the cloud. So now that Revit 2022 has a built-in PDF writer, we have the ability through the Revit Design Automation API to basically write a routine that could say, hey, I want to, every time a new version gets published from Revit into BIM 360, make me a new set of PDFs. Or every Friday at 2 o'clock, make me a new set of PDFs, right? So there's the ability to automate those tasks. And furthermore, those PDFs would be created via a supercomputer in the cloud rather than tying up your desktop processing just to spool those things off. So there's some really cool possibilities there. Again, using Revit Design Automation API, which is Forge, and these different API tools that are now available in Revit 2022. All right, to wrap up for this evening, these are the things that were grayed out earlier. I've pretty much hit upon all of these. There's 47 different things on this particular page. We started off talking about tapered walls and profiles for slanted walls, RPCs and realistic views, and got all the way down here to like, you know, resizing a bunch of these different dialog boxes that we can finally do. And then on the next page, some big ones here, 2D PDF export, a scheduling of work sets, shared parameters and key schedules. I think that one's awesome. Grids and 3D views over here under documentation. And then I just wrapped up with the overall developer tools. So with that, that's gonna wrap for really what I have for you guys for tonight. Hopefully that got you some good information. It was, gosh, 2.5 hours with me even trying to go quick. And I appreciate your time. And if I have time now, I can stick around and take any questions that you guys might have and let me know what you guys think.
Cool. Hey, everybody. So feel free to unmute if you want to ask a question or talk. But I think right here, Shobit, we can at least stop the recording, try to save some processing time for that thing. But if anybody has anything to say and wants to unmute, I think you have the capability now. So feel free.
Hey, Scott, I have a question about
Sure.
the link API. You were talking about, so now it's open, so we can probably perform some Dynamo scripts to a link file, or maybe I'm understanding incorrectly that.
Yes, I believe so. I believe that's what that link API is going to allow you to do, is actually use that functionality to script some linking capabilities in the background. Now, I'm not acutely aware of exactly what the API does, but that's my understanding of it, that it should allow you to start using something like Dynamo, or go even further. If somebody really wants to get into Revit programming, make your own toolbar buttons and using basically the underpinnings of the Revit UI programming language and do that. But the easiest way to do that is through Dynamo and then hooking those things up to the Dynamo player for easy access. But you could go even farther. The API is not just limited to Dynamo, but it could be more.
Yeah, Dynamo gets what, about 85, 90% of the calls right now, and the API is obviously everything opened up to the API.
Yeah, you got it.
Then, like for the point cloud API you mentioned there, it's that we'll be able to make changes to point clouds. I'm not really sure I grasp that concept on that one.
I'm not sure exactly what that API does either. I don't know if you can make changes to them using that API or not. It's a Revit API, so it has to have something to do with actually getting probably point clouds in and out of Revit, because you're not going to use Revit to edit a point cloud. That's not what that API is about. So that's my thought. It's probably more about how to load and unload or display point clouds inside of a Revit session. But I'm not 100% sure. Sorry.
Yeah,
No,
you won't.
it's okay.
You shouldn't. You can't really edit the point cloud unless you're in recap or even pre-registration. So
Yeah. The APIs are those ones that I mentioned are specific to Revit. So kind of keep that in mind. Like, what can you do with point clouds in Revit today? Well, I can load them in. I can view them. I can snap to them behind the scenes and draw stuff over the top of them, right? Got visibility graphics control over point clouds. So
Fine.
probably what that API does.
Yeah, so it's
through the
still,
questions.
if anybody does have questions, I just do want to say for the people that are still on, we do have a bunch. That, you know, thank you very much for your time. And if we don't see you till next month, see you next month. But again, if you have any questions, Scott's still here. So.
Oh, web links. Somebody just said, don't forget about the web links. Okay, so let me do those so we can at least get those. I don't want Alexa. Come on.
You know, LGMTFY.com.
Yeah, here, let me just, if I put these in the Q&A panel, does everybody get them?
I'm not sure, but you could just drop them in an email to us when we post this. We'll put them in there.
Okay.
But also,
blog.
Yeah, the Trello blog, that stuff's out there. It's readily findable.
Yeah. So I just posted one into the Q&A. Where did chat go? I had a chat window earlier. I don't know where, oh, there it is. Chat window, it got closed. That's why I couldn't see it. I tried to paste them in there to all. Let's go to entire audience. Okay, so here we go. There's one to this Revit 2022 blog. The next one I'll put in the chat window for everybody is the roadmap, Trello roadmap, and put that in there. I know Jay, you said, but it's just easier for me to do it right now.
Yeah, no, I got you. But also like the Trello roadmap, that's all available off the Autodesk,
Correct.
Their website. You know, for anybody who's not on the beta or the whatever they're being called now, you know, go to that site, the roadmap, and you know, join up, get on the new versions. Just watch what computer you put them on.
Exactly. Thanks everybody for all the questions that are rolling in, and thanks you guys for kind of answering stuff in the background and then posing them to me so we can try to answer some of them live. Like I said, it was always fun to do these things. I hope you guys are impressed. I'm pretty impressed. They've done a ton of work. I guess the last thing I would say here kind of in closing is don't expect that this was like a one and done thing, like, wow, great release, and that, you know, 2023, it's back to quote unquote normal. The production is going to continue to be ramped up. Like we know there's a lot of work to do. There's been a huge reinvestment, like I said, in new developers, bringing new people in to run some additional Scrum teams. And we know there's a lot of work to do, and there's going to be a lot of great new features. In fact, the point releases that will come out this year, 2022.1, 0.2, 0.3, if we get that far, will all have a bunch of new tools and features in them as well.
Yeah, anytime an entire industry rails back against a company that doesn't develop their products for 20 years, they get on the ball pretty quick.
Yeah.
I know you don't need to comment. I know that was unfair. I apologize. You know me.
It's all right.
Can we talk about the orphan technology for a second?
Sure.
I've been wanting for a very, very long time to have some device to be able to restore dimensions that get deleted when you move things. This seems like the first tentative baby step in that direction. Because if you can guess where to reattach a tag, you can probably guess where to reattach a dimension endpoint.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
I totally agree with that as an idea, but if we just kind of break it down and unpack what's going on there, what's happening is in a lot of cases, people are dimensioning to the wrong thing. First of all, they're dimensioning to somebody else's model. And at that point, you have no control. So if it is dimensioning to somebody else's model, I personally I'll side with the software and say, you're doing it wrong. Of course it's going to break. Now there's another whole side where it could be where that piece doesn't get deleted or that model doesn't get messed with, and maybe it's just moved and the dimension doesn't re-pick up that resolution, and I get it. But if the object isn't there, the only thing at least in my imagination, what Revit would be able to do to solve that, it would have to put some sort of object, either a line or a reference plane maybe, and have the dimension in that same place, but no longer to a linked model, but now to a newly created reference plane. And really what that's going to do is it would open up more mistakes in a model that we would maybe never see. Now, I guess they could create a dialogue that could list all those out, and then we could go chase down all of those dimensions to find it. But if there's no object there, Revit would have to create a new object to allow that dimension to live.
No, I agree with you on that part. I mean, but even given the option to go, hey, I'm going to delete this dimension, you know, do you want to reattach it, sort of thing. That's a mile beyond what we have now.
That would be awesome. Yeah, right. Just bring you right to that view and have the dimension.
Yeah.
At the end.
No more of this. Hey, I just deleted 20 dimensions. Go find them. Ha ha ha. You know, it's like ridiculous.
You don't like that. Yeah, that button is the most resigned button. It's just like when you click that, it puts you in the most resigned position possible.
Should go after Autodesk for PTSD.
There needs to be, if we can't bring them back, if they're orphan dimensions and can't bring them back, something else like the thought is like, okay, leave the dimension there, but turn it red and say this is no longer working correctly, but we don't want to remove it entirely. So you had to figure it out. Like some of the, if we can't reattach it, some other way of saying this needs to be addressed.
This is now an annotation symbol and you'll never be able to change it, but it looks like a dimension. Maybe it's red, but it looks like a dimension, but it is not a dimension. It won't stretch. Just fix it, do so. At least that would be awesome. Yeah.
Something. There needs to be something there. Because like you said, Jay, nobody wants to go hunt and peck around a drawing set and say, what happened when I picked that go ahead and remove dimensions button, right?
Well,
So
yeah, and one of the things, I mean, for years, when I dimension plans, I really work with the temporary dimension or the temporary visibility and turn everybody else's stuff off. So I'm not dimensioning to the back end of an electrical plate instead of my wall. You know, I'm leaving walls, dimensions, grids,
right?
Beams on, everything else is effing off.
Yeah.
I am not doing that to myself. And it doesn't keep it 100% safe, but at least you're 99% safe.
Yeah.
Just going through every sheet and
what old school.
If you just have your grids dimension and you delete a grid or a grid gets updated, just to update that on every sheet, or it's a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
They really have to do something about that.
Yeah, like I said, there's lots of little projects like that need some continuous improvement for sure. And hopefully we pick those things up, or hopefully the development group picks those things up. Lots of great questions, lots of good feedback too. I'm going back through and there's occasional little thing where it says like, yay, or something. I'm like, what part of the presentation were we at? where people were appreciating it. So, but some people typed in like, oh, that's, share parameters and key schedules. That was awesome, or, whatever. So great feedback there. I feel like this is a release that will definitely inspire people to move to it sooner rather than later. I know a lot of you guys, stay. I think there was jokes before some people got on the call. Hey, we're still on Revit 2015 or something to that effect. But the other thing, I know I've mentioned it before, maybe on this particular user group, but this idea that we're going to wait for the first service pack to come out, and I have to address that. Several years ago, we did do service packs. There was Revit, 2015 Service Pack 1. We don't have service packs any longer. There's point releases along the way. So there'll be a 22.1 and a 0.2, like I said. But I have to tell you that Revit is bug bashed against itself every single hour of every single day. Like there's really no difference between Revit 2022 and then Revit 2022.1 as far as the effort that's gone into it for trying to squash as many bugs as possible. I've heard other people say we're going to wait till Autodesk fixes quote unquote all the bugs, and unfortunately, it's just not the way that software development works. There are things that just simply don't get addressed, can't get addressed, aren't even discovered that they're actually a problem until they get out in the wild and some customer does something that no one else has ever thought of before, and does some sequence of moves and finds a bug. So I don't think there's ever the idea that something is completely 100% bug free. But I guess my bottom line is realize that by saying that we're going to wait for the first service pack to get rid of the bugs from the 2022 release is really a fallacy. There's no reason to stay there and wait for that 0.1 release because there's really no difference between them. That's why Revit has a build that goes out to the hour, date, and time. Every hour of every day is a new build of Revit made.
Is there any official, anybody write anything up about that idea about, hey, look, it's not like the olden days. Does that exist somewhere? Because that would be nice.
Yeah, Jay, I don't know if it exists yet. I was having a conversation internally with another group about it yesterday, and they wanted to actually pick my brain about it a little bit more. And we may either search to see if there's something or start drafting up some kind of a document or some kind of a campaign to let people know that that's really the case. And so if it's not available now, there may be something available soon, because like I said, I was talking to a particular group yesterday and they're like, oh, we should actually pursue that. So
yeah, you should, because I mean, look, if you can put it with real numbers and the real data, like, the initial release has this many issues and the point release has this many, and you notice they're the same number or within a couple percent, and the 0.2 and 0.3, that's not what it's about. I think by reading that with the scientific data behind it, you would get a lot of people to kind of shake their heads clear and go, oh, maybe I just need to change my conversation about it. So
present the facts. Facts matter, right? Like you said, present the scientific evidence behind it that there's no percentage difference between a point release and a yearly release as far as bugs go, is really what it comes down to. The only thing that's different between really a yearly release and a point release is the yearly release takes into account any of those tools that needed to have a file format change, and that's the whole backwards compatibility or lack of backwards compatibility in Revit. Every single year we move forward. The point releases, any tools that happen at the 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 inherently cannot affect the file format. If there's a tool that has to affect the file format to make the programming correct, that tool has to wait until the yearly release comes out to do that.
Good answer. Well, all right. That looks like we don't have any more questions. We still have 17 people. Thanks, all you guys. It was an awesome.
You guys are the awesome people. Anybody stayed on this long so far?
Right? So, thank you again, Scott. It was awesome. Showbit and Titan, everybody over there. Thanks a lot for the technology. And we'll get this thing processed and out there on the web. And look forward to next year, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this all in person, sitting down with you guys, actually having a beer and some pizza in person and going over the stuff. It'll be great.
I mean, can you believe we missed that nasty pizza? Right? I'm dying for it, like cold, sitting there pizza.
I'm hanging out with just like actual real people rather than virtual, video screens. So.
Yeah, I went and got a coffee the other day. I actually sat down outside and saw a human being walk by me, and they actually spoke. It was shocking. I didn't know what they said, hello or something like that. I just literally didn't know what to do.
That's so funny. Good comments. I'm seeing a couple other things come in about, who was it?
Is it COVID at the point the release is so good because of COVID?
Yeah.
You guys got to focus for a year.
Oh man, you guys are killing me. All right, hey everybody, thanks again. I appreciate it, Jay, Shobit, all the guys that helped put this thing together. As always, thanks. And we'll catch you next time. Oh, and Blaine, is Blaine still around? No, he dropped. All right, everybody.
Thanks again.
Thanks.